This is RPMMO Radio,
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
a podcast all about role-playing and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Strafe, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Greetings and welcome, role players. This is RPMMO Radio, 38th episode, RP creators versus RP consumers. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and with me, as always, is our crew, Jazz, Sib, and the Strafe, who are all, like, going off and on muting. You're muted. Oh, I'm muted. How am I muted? Oh, you guys can't hear me, but they can hear you. There we go. See, everybody could hear me on the podcast, but nobody could hear you guys because you were muted.
You were muted.
As I introduced everybody, Jazz, Sib, Strafe, how's it going, guys?
Hi, guys.
I forgot I had been muted. How did that happen?
I don't
You
know.
muted yourself, too.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only in Discord, and like, who's not hearing me there that matters, really? I mean, you three?
I kept yelling over there saying, "You're muted. You're muted." I thought he was doing all that muted. I didn't realize.
Yeah, well, they it records directly off my mic instead of through Discord. You guys are the only ones Discorded off Discord, so this is stuff. This is technical stuff. It's smart stuff. It's the best stuff.
The best.
The best. So, thanks everybody for joining us. Of course, we do it every Saturday, 7 Central Time at twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio. We are also a show you can call in, give us your thoughts, your opinions, your roleplay stories. Just go to rpmmoradio.com/Discord and join our Discord channel. Throw it yourself in the caller waiting room, and we will, of course, get to you throughout the course of the show. And, with that, I want to give a special thanks, of course, to all our Patreon donors who help make the show possible, and especially those two at our raid boss level, That Guy Laza and The Truth Bob. You
Yay.
guys are people. I mean,
The best people.
You're the best people. Yeah, that's
The
it.
best people.
There's a compliment in there somewhere, but I'm not good at compliments. I don't know. If
You
anybody
two are our favorites.
We can't pick favorites. It's like kids.
Okay.
Can't.
You two are Sib's favorite.
There you go.
Wow. Do you hear that, everybody? That sounds like a challenge. You're all the redheaded stepchild. And anybody that's out there that's actually a redheaded stepchild, dye your hair. That way you can't be called that.
True story.
And, of course, we are, a podcast as well. You can find us on iTunes, Android podcast apps, and we are actually on Spotify, which I guess is a very popular platform out there with you youngins out there. But
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. Do you remember the race riots? Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Oh, my God.
But you don't watch enough Family Guy, do you? That's what that's from.
No, I
Yes.
don't watch Family Guy.
Yeah, they were saying all sorts of horrible things. It's like, do you remember back when only whites could vote? Pepperidge Farm remembers. It's like, whoa.
It's a pretty clever skit. Pretty dark. But yeah.
Pretty dark, but damn, are those cookies tasty. Expensive, but tasty. But yeah, so we are on Spotify. It's a really, apparently it's super easy to actually listen to it there, and I've done it. I mean, just to test it out. I don't even remember having actually done it to do that, but it is a thing that happens. So
Robot Ashen loaded it up, man.
that's right. I've cross-platformed on this thing with so many different freaking apps to make sure we are where we're supposed to be, that it all just, it's kind of like working at the same place for a decade. After a while, it's just all the same day. Like, day in and day out, it makes no difference whatsoever. And, of course, you can actually, and we would appreciate it if you did it if you're on iTunes, because a lot of people are on iTunes as well. Give us a customer review, even though we're not really selling you anything, I guess. But, you know, people that listen to it review. As we did with not the real David R. Haley, who is actually the real David R. Haley. He was the one, of course, from the famous Dragon Ball Fighters spout that we had.
Also,
he is, in fact, still recovering.
Also, the chicken.
He's the chicken guy. He's the chicken guy, the rubber chicken guy.
Is he still surviving and like healing from that proper thrashing?
It was, you know, and of course he's part Saiyan, so when he heals, he'll come back twice as strong as he was before.
True.
Which of course I will still, of course, beat him because I was Goku and he's Vegeta and he's always one step behind. The end.
Will he have pink hair?
No, that was Goku Black, and that was Super Saiyan Rose, and that was evil. That was basically evil Goku from another dimension.
Oh, so you don't want pink hair?
No, you don't want pink. You want to go Super Saiyan Blue, or if you're following Super at all, Ultra Instinct, which is apparently white.
Okay.
They're really running out of hair colors on Dragon Ball with the color of the spectrum on how powerful you can go. I don't know. They're gonna go full circle and like this. He'll be black haired again. Like, now I'm regular Goku, but this is the strongest Goku ever. I don't know.
It never ends, man.
No, it doesn't. But I love it. It's such a cheesy piece of shit show, but I love every second of it. Just brings me back to my youth. You know, like
Ute?
a week ago. Ute. Yeah, Utes. You know, 2 Utes. What's a Ute? You know, Utes. Anybody remember my Uncle Vinny?
My Uncle Vinny. I love that show.
I love that show.
Such a good movie.
Everything that guy said was just bullshit.
That's right.
Is it me or is Marissa Tomei? She just doesn't age. She's not aged at all.
Oh yeah, that's the cocaine keeps her young.
So,
Oh my god.
What?
nothing.
He does have a point. It did work for Bowie for a while.
Mm-hmm. Right up
For a
until it
while.
didn't. But, so anyway, of course, as we say, regardless of the review, if it's good or bad, we will read it. Thankfully, this one was good. Whew. We really dodged a bullet on that one, guys. I've been a listener to the podcast from the beginning. After 36 episodes, I'm just reading it how he wrote it. I can, because I'm going to make fun of him if he misspells it, and he did. So after 36 episodes, I can really see how much the program has developed. Funny, charming, informative.
You're such an ass.
With a side of wit. These hosts offer insight at different angles. I've been an RPer for 20 years now, and the world of gaming is forever changing. I'm glad I have an updated news to what's going on out there, being developed, and how the RP community is forever growing. Keep up, you guys, and I won't troll you. Third time trying to write this review. It shows. I will say, I have a feeling.
Spellcheck is your friend, especially when Ashen is in the room.
I have a feeling that might have been done on the phone too, which is
Yeah.
And I'll be honest. I mean, I'm
make
glad
horrible
people
mistakes
listened
when I
on
use it.
iTunes. I, however, detest the entire program. I didn't have it on my computer until we had the show, and I had to have it because it's the only way to read stuff like that. Yeah. But no, David R. Haley, he is a good dude. He's a cool guy. I've actually enjoyed playing some games with him offline. Well, actually online, but off the show. So he's a cool guy, and I really enjoy talking to him. So thank you, David, for the review. You're the bestest.
You are the bestest.
And that all happened rather abruptly.
Abruptly, yep.
Because the B is silent, according to our daughter.
This was several years back, though.
Right. She was still a teenager, though, and they're all bad. They're all just bad. So, with that, folkses, what have we been doing on our role play? Who should I pick? Who should I? Jazz, what have you been up to?
Without
now
fail.
that you've finally decided to roll out of bed after your role play last night, apparently.
I got to sleep in until it was about 11 when I got up.
Oh, you missed the Denny's breakfast special.
I couldn't eat anything there anyway.
No, that's true. You gluten-free people. Oh, I'll die if I eat it. Yeah, well.
It feels like it. let's see. Last night we did a lot of RP with the Telvanni side of things in my guild. And my character, Sildreni, had a lot going on. So yesterday was really busy and a lot of fun. The conflict RP there is really fun. It's nice because it's just nasty enough to be drama, but a good kind of drama.
Well, you gotta. What was the conflict?
Well, the conflict is the conflict is that Telvanni tend to stab each other in the back, sort of thing. Sildreni's father is the one that started this particular branch, and she's very protective of him, and he tends to be very forgiving of people, and she is not. A guy by the name of Dalatori, who is also a master, his apprentice is Micah, and Micah and Sildreni have been kind of butting heads for a while now. He continues to refer to anyone that is not Myr as a slave or a pet. And she was about ready to behead him the other night. I told you guys about that, she held the sword to his throat and was like, I'm really tired of you. Basically, I'm going to kill you if you keep this up. He then asked her out on a date afterwards, and she just about stabbed him.
Wow. Talk about somebody not knowing the temperature of a room.
Mike is icily cute, clueless. It's hilarious. He's like winking at her going, that was sexy as hell. You know that, right? She was like, get away from me.
I want to press charges, officer.
He's always cruising for a bruising, no less.
He is. He's dead. So it was a lot of fun. And then this time around, last week, he did it again. Right in front of everybody. And Sildreni was like, that's it. She was really going to kill him. And people stepped forward and kind of got in the middle of it. And she remembered that she's a master, and Ile sided with her, which is shock and surprise because Ile and her don't get along at all. They actually dislike each other, or did. They united over Micah and demanded that he be demoted from Mouth down to Lawman and lose his standing because he refused to be respectful of the masters. He told Sildreni that she only had her position because her daddy gave it to her.
Yeah, and for those not in ESO, the position of a mouth is like it's like it's something given to you by the masters. So then bad mouthing your masters, it's like getting your job from your boss and then being like to his face, like, thanks for the job, loser.
Well, I mean, he was being respectful to Dalatori to his face. But he was being disrespectful to the other masters.
Oh, okay.
And that's like
then
okay.
So it's like having multiple supervisors from Office Space,
right.
And you're respectful to the one that hired you, but you disrespect all the others.
Right, and the other ones have just as much right to have you fired as anyone else, because they're like, you either rein him in and get him under control, or we're done. He's out. And
Chattahoochee, that is correct. The mouth is the rank right below the nose. Yes. Good troll there, buddy.
Yeah. So after that, Ile and the other masters got together and they demanded that he be demoted. And Dalatori was basically like, I don't care about your slaves and pets. You don't matter to me anyway. So he called Ile a librarian and her daddy's little girl and a princess. And she was like, yeah, I'm just going to kill him. She was trying really hard to rein in her temper. And her dad's just like, you need to calm down and look at this logically. She was like, oh, I am going to look at it logically by the point of my sword.
Use your words.
Yes. And he was basically like, use your words and calm down, basically. And she was like, stop telling me to calm down, because that never works anyway. So anyway, she and Ile left. He talked to Dalatori and Dalatori fired Micah. So whatever was said convinced him that he needed to do this. So he fired Micah, and Micah was furious. And then this week is the new installment.
This week,
Sildreni's father takes Micah as a mouth, and she's just like, "What?"
Shameful.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of conflict.
Nepotism is alive and well in ESO.
Yeah, and she's just like, oh my god. So then after it was all said and done, Micah had brought this chick in to introduce to them and kind of treated her a bit like a trophy. But as soon as she got alone, she made very quick to impress the masters and nobody else. And so Micah left in a huff, as I understand it. I don't know what happened when Sildreni wasn't there, but she came back and kind of walked into this mess. So it was a lot of fun, and it went till wee hours of the morning because after the lady left, saying she might join, she might not. Then Sildreni and her father had a very long talk/fight. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
That was a lot. And then the week before on Sunday, last Sunday, Rogier and Sildreni had words. So it's just been a really fun week of a lot of conflict RP, which I love. And also Friday night, I had a 6-person brawl in the Riften Tavern.
Yeah, I mentioned something about that.
And I'll tell you what, I think hell has frozen over because no one god modded. No one got OOCly butthurt.
Yeah, and
it was flawless, and nobody was rolling dice.
Open air tavern. It's not like player one or anything. It's just
that's a little surprising.
Yeah, I was floored.
Good, but surprising.
I kept expecting it to go south, and it never did. It was fantastic.
That's amazing for random RP. Holy smokes!
It really, especially with that many people.
6 people.
You can't get that
it was
between
fantastic.
2 usually.
Yeah, and it was a blast, and I was up late for that too. So,
yeah,
that's why I was up.
I remember there was one outside that place you were just talking about in Riften in ESO, and it was just 2 dudes, and they went for, what was it? I think we were all out there.
That was when they had the fight night.
Yeah, but it was like 2 dudes just beating on each other for an hour, and like they were like, at this point you would both, I mean, you're brain dead.
You would die of brain damage. It's ridiculous.
So like because they were taking hits. It's just that neither one of them was going down. It's like you guys,
and they were rolling and they were using dice, but neither one refused to really be hurt by anything.
Right.
And it just kept going on and on and on until it was done.
It was like the last fight in every Rocky movie, all put in to one movie throughout the entire thing.
Right. So that was Wednesday night. So that was just an amazing off night that normally doesn't have a lot of RP. It was just a blast. I was just so really happy. Cool. So that was my night. That was my week. It was a lot of RP. I just feel rejuvenated. I always do when I get a lot of roleplay.
It always is nice when you get a week, where you have
good week.
Just a good week.
Nothing like
a lot of fun RP.
Yeah, it was a great deal of fun.
So when you were telling me that, I was thinking that same song, and Steffe said it when I was thinking about it.
Well, I'll tell you, Kishmas isn't here, but I have to say I had a lot of fun. He cornered my character when she was leaving. Asked me ahead of time if that was okay, which I thought was nice, but I would have gone along with it regardless in an open area. But it was a lot of fun, and Rogier was a complete dick, but very charming. So it was fun because he has power and Sildreni knows that. And so she was being very careful about what she was saying and how she was saying it because she knew what he was. And that was one of the things that she and her father got into was because he was like, basically screw the Ordinators. And she's like, they have a lot of power.
And there's a lot
we don't need that kind of attention. So regardless of what you actually think about them, I'm going to be very careful because now they know who I am. And I really hate that they know who I am. So I'm going to be careful.
The gold hats.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And I really appreciated him looping me in like that and following through with it because a lot of people, don't because they don't know the other character very well. You don't know how that player is going to respond. But it went really, really well. I was pleased. So, yay.
Yay.
Next.
I was reading the comment.
All right, Steffe, you're up then.
Well, did the Tuesday night poetry and wine tasting hour at Trask's Place. I had a large attendance for once. It was pretty shocking. It went well. Everybody got engaged. I'm still getting less and less people having the courage to go up and do stuff, but they did stick around for random tavern RP after, so it was a lot of fun. And the only other thing I did was walk into the open guild RP night and he'll see her from the massive bruises all over her face.
Yeah, from her bar fight. She was gleeful about until everybody saw it and started bitching at her.
From the ballroom blitz, and I included another guy who doesn't get much role play to try to get him to interact, and that was I didn't have much going on this week, so it was pretty short.
Yeah, that's about how mine went too. What about you, Sib?
Let's see. Sunday. I know. Let's see. Yeah, Sunday, because I didn't really do anything Saturday night. I'm still fighting my allergies. It's wonderful. Where we live, it's like one day it's 70, then the next day it's 30. Like,
Yeah.
I think Wednesday it was like 60, and then last night we had snow. So yeah, it really sucks.
And a hard freeze. Yeah.
Yeah, we
But,
had, it was 36 degrees here when I went to work. And by the time I got to work, it was 28 degrees.
Mhm.
I was like, good freak. I put on my hat, I put on my gloves, and I scooted
Get the
into my
park out.
client. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
ridiculous. It was 55, 60 degrees not even 2 weeks ago. I hate you, Iowa.
That's right.
But
This is RPM Radio, where you get the news, the weather, and traffic on the hour, every hour, on the 5s, the 6s, and the 7s.
Oh, I did have to ride to work today with Ashen because
Mhm.
I don't drive when it's yucky out. So, so there's your traffic report.
And of course, because it's April, there were several accidents along. We actually didn't have it so bad here, but just literally like 5 miles north of us, it froze harder, and people were sliding off the road left and right because, well, for one, they're morons to start with, and two, it's April. They, weren't really expecting it,
Hmm.
and you always should.
Anyway,
Always. Until May. Yeah.
but my RP consisted of Sunday night. I did my Trial of Mystery, which was a lot of fun on 9th. It was for the servants of the tribunal, and I did it with Malel and Traverse. I think I'm pronouncing those correctly, and if I'm not, I'm so sorry. But it was very interesting. We to my character, it was very challenging because we went into some old ruins and things just went crazy. I mean, we found switches that threw us up on the ceiling where everything else stayed where it was. We had to fight a centurion. I think Malel was the only one that didn't really get hurt, but me and Tevis, I think.
I
How-
thought it was Tervis. Isn't
Tervis?
Tervus? Tervis?
Tervis. Okay. We'll pronounce it that way.
We'll do that.
But no, he kept getting hurt. And at the end, I ended up getting like a hole burnt through my side. And I don't even remember us leaving the ruins. But when we walked out, everything was fine. It was a lot of fun. And it was very mysterious. And
Because it was
Then
the
let's
trial
see.
of mystery.
Yeah. which I'm supposed to do. We've got our Trial of Mastery happening
Tomorrow, isn't
tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. And we all three get to do it together again. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they've
And
got
then,
a very clever way when they do those trials like that. The first one's kind of easy. You just beat up somebody else. And then after that, you get grouped with people like that. As long as they stay in the game, like the guy I was with CO, him and my character, we're still, like, they're good, close comrades, It's just something, it's that war buddy thing. They kind of, through the role play, they actually managed to almost force it into being every single time just because they're so much fun to do.
Yeah. Well, I did have a lot of fun. And then Monday night was Ordinator training, which was a lot of fun. And I know Tavares he's kind of protective over my character. And I think it's just because we went through the mystery trial together, which is kind of sweet. And then, let's see, Tuesday night was poetry night, which was a lot of fun. I got to be the hostess that handed out all the cheese and wine.
The hostess with the
She
most.
Yeah.
did.
It's fun because everyone does picks out poems and stuff that they do.
Some people
And,
even write their own, Jazz.
Yeah, Jazz. She did an awesome job of writing her
They were
own.
good. I mean,
Yes.
poetry's all awful,
Thank
but
you.
it was still good.
Yeah, but I offered to do the hostess thing, so I was the wine and cheese girl. And let me tell you, I can wine it up. No,
And she has a lot of cheese, as we all can hear.
And I might add that Caves was digging on your Barbie. Just saying it.
oh my Barbie, Jen, she's my Barbie character. I call her that because I don't play her that often because she's like very high society. She's my hot Jessica. Yeah, we'll go with that. She's my
Jessica.
and I like to dress her up. That is one thing I've always liked whenever I play these games. I love to dress my characters up, at least one of them. So I call Jen my Barbie. And then let's see, going on to Wednesday night. I think I didn't go into game Wednesday. I was not feeling good. And then Thursday night, I went to the sermon that the servants have. And then after that, I helped a friend. My character helped a friend. So it was really nice. And his character is just he's been through a lot being young. And she's just
depressed.
She's just nice and very.
She's their Deanna Troy right now.
Yeah, she wants to be helpful, and she doesn't like to see anybody go through hard times because, trust me, my character, if on her bio, she's went through horrible times. So she's my I want to help everybody. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I've had a really good week.
Yeah. I was lazy. Didn't do much. So, I did.
You played The
things.
Witcher.
I did. I've been playing Witcher 3. No, on Monday we did, of course, the servants had their thing. And this time it was 2 Minotaurs. And that was usual fun. It's just, it's kind of a quick hour-long RP combat. And where, everybody fights against them. It was a good fight. 2 Minotaurs versus 6 or 7 of the Ordinators. It was pretty standard, but I always enjoy it. The person that runs them now, Evul, it's funny. I was from when, not even 6 months ago when they first started doing it, it wasn't the greatest of things all the times because a lot of they weren't descriptive. When people would roll, they'd say so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. If they missed but didn't get hit back. But now when they do that, they tell it in 2 or 3 paragraphs, usually, depending on how many people there are. But they tell the story of who gets hit, who hits, who gets why it is that they missed their attack roll, or if they get hit back and how that works and how they get slammed around, maybe. So it's very cool to see somebody have, the more and more they've done it, they've really learned, and it's actually very, very enjoyable now. No matter what they do, it's pretty much something worth reading just to see how the NPC things react to everybody around them. So that's really cool, and I enjoyed the heck out of those. Then of course I went to the poetry night with my character Kenix, which I don't pull out of the, I had to dust him off a little bit. He was getting a little moldy, a little bit. So
moldy?
Yeah,
it's okay. He's an oldie but a goodie.
He's old, but he's an oldie but a moldy. But and that was fun. The poetry, even though I'm not the biggest person in poetry, I still like going to some of those things every now and then. The poetry thing's just my personal thing. I just never, even in high school, never been a poetry reader much. So
You did save that one RP tune from being
yeah.
started there.
There was that somebody dropped off another character there, and he took pity on her because she's like, hey, someone came up with another person. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna drop her off here, and then they left. It's like, wow, you're a great date. So he had her sit next to him, and kind of chatted up, kept her company, and and of course, as it was a male to female relationship, I immediately asked her to ERP. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. Oh yeah. I was sending her virtual dick pics, just the 8 with several long equal signs and then a little point at the end. Which is about as good as it gets. But no, actually, I did feel a little bad for her. Apparently, it was supposed to have been done that way, but it was still oof. In character, it looked like a shit thing to do. So he took pity on her and had her sit down because she looked uncomfortable, and told her to try the drinks and the cheese, and eventually he liked her even more because she had a glass of wine, and after that, he let her have him have hers. So
yeah,
he got more. which is always a good thing for an alcoholic, which is kind of what they are. But other than that, yeah, I will admit I played The Witcher 3 back when it first came out on consoles, and it was on sale for like $10 or $15 a couple weeks ago, and I bought it, and did some of the improvements, and I've been playing it again. So I've been doing one of those. It's one of those games that I love the world. I love the lore on that game so much, and there's so many different choices. I'm doing things I didn't do the first time. Taking Triss over Yennefer instead of Yennefer over Triss. It's that kind of stuff. It's such an awesome game. So yeah, I've kind of got sucked in.
That's me in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Fallout in general.
Yeah. If you end up going back to it or something like that, and you're like, damn it, this is such a good game. I remember why I play it. And then you get sucked in, and that's, kind of, I'm 30, I think I'm almost 40 hours into it now. So, and I never really,
Good stuff.
I only did one of the 2 original DLCs. I never finished Blood and Wine, which was the one I was really looking forward to because it has one of my favorite characters, Regis the vampire, because he's an awesome vampire. He doesn't sparkle. He's just a cool vampire. The fact that he hangs out with the Witcher means that he has to be. He also has a receding hairline, which is somebody working on theirs I can relate to. Go Italians! So, all right. Well, with that, I think we will go ahead, excuse me, and do a word from our sponsor if certain person's good to go.
Yep.
Okay.
He's in the building.
All right. Did he get past security?
He ate security, but then he apologized, so we're good.
As long as he apologized, that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and throw it over to our announcer and see what's up next. This episode is brought to you by Direfields Guild Improvements, LLC.
Has problem guildmates? They always clashing with the plans? Tired of dealing with them deserters that play hookies but always come back for the pay? Direfear Industries proud to announce Direfear's Guild Improvements Consultants LLCs. We make them happies, work betters, and disappears. And best part, you not to blame at the end of the guild improvements. But wait, there's more. Direfear's Crab Shop caters company feast once improvements is done. So eat your troubles away with Direfear's Guild Improvements.
Direfield Guild Improvements is not liable for any damages to company property and the staff therein. Actual results may vary. Price is slightly higher west of the Highhold Pass. All staff must sign Direfield certificates and acceptance and be over the age of 18 years old. No animals were harmed during the process of this service. Any cooked food resembling actual people, living or dead, or events past, present, or future are purely coincidental. This service not to be construed as an effort to civil Freeport law, nor is the adoption of promulgated or of any guideline, standards, or recommendations. Some names have been removed to protect the innocent. The service is meant for team improvement purposes only. Use only as directed. Yeah, good old Gormal. Do we have the rotten steaks in the back to keep him from eating any of the other staff?
That's what
I
we use.
miss Garball.
That's what we use to lure him out of the studio, bro.
Okay, yeah. Just make sure we put him in the dumpster. Last time he got out of there and we didn't put the lock on there properly. So when we transported him back to his swamp, he unfortunately ate an entire busload of kindergartners. So
I know.
our
We're
insurance
still paying
is
off
not. Yeah, our insurance isn't going to cover that this time. You understand that, right?
Yeah, I know.
I know you like having this guy around, but seriously, the liability for the company is savage.
He is charming, but he is definitely savage. That is for sure. And the smell in here is rotten.
Were those the kindergartners we ate that he brought in?
I don't know what you're talking about legally.
According, hold on, let me ask my lawyer.
I'm a little scared now.
Yeah, he says no comment.
Okay.
The official response is, in fact, no comment. Because we're not responsible for anything Gormal does. So
Yeah, he pulled up with Bargnar. I was kind of surprised, but it is what it is.
they've been seen at nightclubs a lot lately. Strangely enough, in company of Lindsay Lohan. I guess trolls really do attract.
Oh, that's a good one.
She had such a great career ahead of her. Then she didn't. So, all right.
Then she
Well,
dated Gormall Bargnar. Who knows?
mm-hmm. So I actually didn't write this. I didn't come up with this topic or write it. So I'm gonna let the guy that did just kind of take the reins. Just do his thing. Like let's see how this whole thing goes. If I'm not doing it, because I mean, as amazing as I am, and I know I am, I'm also very humble. Yeah.
Right. So
Very
I'm not the
humble.
only one on the show, and I like to spread the
Toot his own
joy and the
horn.
love of coming up with topics to everybody. So, and I know this was something Strafe's, it's near and dear to his heart. Near and dear.
it is indeed, sir. Our
Or is
topic
it
today is
dear?
hosting Guild RP events only to have guildmates not join in, then later complain about no RP.
That never happens.
Oh, my friend, it happens all
No,
the time.
I've been role playing for 48 years. Never seen it happen. Never mind that I'm 38 years old.
48 in spirit.
It feels like it sometimes. Yeah, it does.
Right. So I've been in countless events hosted by Dear Jazzy here and other folks near and dear to me. And you always have that small percentage of players that don't join in, but then later complain that there's no RP. And when encouraged to say, hey, man, why don't you just come join the deal? They may show up for 5 minutes, be super quiet, turn into the wall edgelord, and then freaking disappear and log out.
Yep.
Anybody else seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, usually Rengots did that. There's a guy we used to know called Rengots, man. He was so emo, he'd always do that. Oh, wait, except for not.
I swore that guy was just hanging out by his boss, grumbling the whole time.
Yeah, he was.
And then if he actually did something violent, he got this horrible shock, and it's like somebody was sticking a caliper right up his backside and let it rip.
Yeah.
Oh man!
Depending
that
on how
poor
long
guy.
it went, he probably did let it rip.
Mm.
Fart jokes.
You almost made me choke on my tea.
I told you what's my
God.
plan. I'm gonna make you choke to death from laughter. It's the perfect crime.
Oh, yes.
No, his goal in life is to kill me with laughter, and he's got close a couple times.
I almost made her
What
pee
you-
today.
What you all didn't know is Ashen is really the Joker. I'm just saying.
You have no proof.
I'll get it, sir. I'll get it.
I can post proof. I've got
That is
pictures.
true. You actually do have pictures. But yeah, you're not wrong. There, and it's people that create RP and people that consume RP. Now, technically, everybody is kind of a creator, and a consumer. Just by being roleplay in general. Obviously, you're creating RP. The second you start typing something, you've helped create or continue with roleplay, right? I mean,
Yes.
Correct.
on the loosest, the very looseness of the term. But that's not the kind of thing we're actually talking about, because, I mean, that's common sense. And if we had to spell it out for you, and this is the lowest common denominator talking, you know who you are. I
So
don't
in a
know.
sense, with let's say we open a bar night, well, every Thursday night, for instance, and the whole guild knows about it. Everyone's involved in it, and people don't like the idea, so therefore they either throw a fit or they protest it by not showing up, and or worse, they go elsewhere and then complain about everybody over there at the current RP event. Then 2 days later, they're complaining that they don't have RP to
In
the
that
guild leader
guild, yeah.
or the officers.
Or they know about the RP event, know it's coming, and then schedule one of their own, and then
Yes.
spend the whole time complaining no one wants to come to their event.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've seen
or-
it. It's a
Yeah,
classic
that's
subterfuge.
Yeah,
Example.
the another really bad one is doing it at the same time. That's awful. I think sometimes even more insidious, and this one's far less rare.
know what you're
or
gonna
far
say.
more rare, but doing it an hour beforehand.
Oh yes.
When you know,
Mhm.
like there's one thing scheduled. We'll say it's scheduled at 8, and then somebody else, the not so good person, schedules theirs at 7, knowing full well theirs is going to be a lot longer than probably 45 minutes to an hour.
In an effort to sabotage your event and pull all the RPers there.
Yeah, or
And
another.
sometimes
Yeah,
the
whoever's-
personal vendetta, it's dirty.
and sometimes they're and every now and then it is because they are just that vapidly clueless. Not
Yeah.
often,
And then you have,
but there are
and
a
then
few.
you have the people who do come and do take part, but then try to
Bless you.
hijack the event by making it about them and their wounds and or oh, I've suddenly been poisoned. Everyone must now pay attention to me at this other event that had
Oh, look
nothing
at
to
me.
do with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like
and oh my god, those kinds of things are really hard to deal with because you're always going to have that, and so you really need to be ready for that when it happens. You need to be able to know how to circumvent it without going OOC and saying "knock it off, you're an idiot" because you really want to, but you
That's
may
more of
not
a-
to.
or dragging
more-
them out before the kangaroo court of the guild chat.
Yeah.
Right. Don't even just ignore them. Ignore that it's happening. Ignore that it's just keep
But-
role playing.
Of
That's
course,
more of an RP saboteur.
it is.
I mean-
which is a little different than what we're
But
talking about.
these,
But
not really
they work.
because these
They
are,
work into each other. Yeah.
right
They do.
because they're still going to be the ones standing there 6 weeks later after they've done this and say nobody likes my RP. I just
Well-
don't think I have any RP in this guild. I don't fit in.
Now the other hard part of this is because you, like you said, the way is to ignore them because But the thing too is if it's for lack of a better term, if it's a popular person, and a lot of people do go to their thing over the thing that was originally scheduled, or they do that, and then it really does derail it because enough people start paying attention to them.
Right.
Then that's when it's a real problem. You can no longer just, like if it is just them, they're like, I've got a splinter. I need a healer, please. And everyone else is there like sipping wine and having a nice chat. And they're like, you'll live, Cupcake. Just rub some dirt in it. Then you have no problem, But
I've
if-
always tried to handle that IC, but sometimes you have to very quietly send them a
Yeah,
tell
but
and
if
say,
it's-
this is not your event, you need to stop.
If it's
But
somebody
that's a
super
last resort.
duper has a lot of, I don't know, for like I said, followers are popular and it does pull away from the actual, say, event, man, it's one, it's a shitty thing to do. And two, shame on those, shame on the people for not, for going along with something like that, I guess. I don't know. It's one of those really hard things to, because it's a different instance in every
Like
case.
I
We've seen
remember
stuff.
an event we
There-
did with Sib, and we were having some big event, and they suddenly decided that people were going to start getting poisoned at the event.
That was a Halloween
Yes.
event. Sib
Remember
worked
that?
her ass off on.
And we tried to ignore it, but it just kept snowballing. And so finally, we're like, "Look, guys, stop
because
it.
people
No
were
one
like,
cleared this with us. No one
Mhm.
went along with
yeah, that
stop
was in
it.
the
This is
Spectre
not your event."
Cartel.
Yeah,
Yeah, and somebody had, it was just supposed to be a ball. Sib worked her butt off. She decorated the shit out of this place. I think we've told the story before, but we'll recap here.
Yeah.
If anybody hasn't. And, it was fun. We had dancing. We had some little mini
It was really a good
games.
event.
We had
Yeah.
a separate house because EQ2 let you put a portal from one house to the other, and then you could put one back to it. So it wasn't convoluted or hard to get around for a spook house thing. And then, I don't know, was it an hour and a half in out of a 2-hour event? Someone's like, they said that the food had been tainted or poisoned, and so that everybody at our event had been poisoned as well, without asking us.
Yeah.
And that was not okay because that was not our,
yeah. You want to
In
do that?
character-
That's fine, but you have to clear it with.
you
the
have to
person at
clear
the
it with
event.
the people doing it, because then after that, who's going to want to come to our stuff if they have the chance of being poisoned
Yeah.
in character? And that wasn't the point of this. It was just to have fun role play without drama, just have the characters mingle, and you can't hijack somebody else's event like that and try to turn it
No.
into something it was not intended to be, especially when somebody put, I don't know, 15 hours of work into it on just decorating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
The first time I
that
saw
was
this
bad.
kind of, yeah, and it happens all the time. The first time
It
I actually
does.
witnessed this whole kind of sabotage and, oh, no one wants to RP with me after the fact was, I mean, this is way back in the day of EQ2. Ashton, your character was still married to Jazz's tune. there was an assassination plot on Jazz's tune, and the assassin was successful. Ren barely missed, intercepting it, but she still got stabbed. Somehow this turned into one of her other guards getting mortally wounded, rolling around the ground, like writhing in agony. And it literally totally distracted from the deal. And I literally sent her a tell OC. I'm like, really? This is really happening? And of course, Jazz, to her credit, then was very patient. She was like, oh, he's this problem child guy. I was like, I can step on him if you want to. No, step on him. Like, please let me step on him.
He looks
step on him.
That looks fatal. We should probably just put him out of his misery like Lassie.
Yeah, I mean, the character's name started with a D, and he didn't last very long.
Was it
he
Derp?
was one of the. Yes, it rhymed with Derp, but he was Derp in my book. But suffice to say, later that week, he was complaining about no one wanted to RP with me, this and that, and I think Jazz had to calmly remind him no one can take your RP seriously because you literally take somebody else's stuff and you turn it into all about you. And eventually he left, as far as I know. I don't know the full details, but that was my first experience in this kind of crap. And
he didn't. He left not long after that because he said he didn't fit into the guild because nobody would take his RP seriously. And we were all very much like, well, maybe that's because. And I tried to be nice about it, and I was talking to him in tells, trying to handle it off away from the public. And he took it into guild chat and started yelling at me.
Yeah. He did. It's one of those guys that is a show stealer that turns into a show stopper.
Yeah. And I was just like, and I told him, that's enough. Now, if you don't want to have this conversation with me in private, then you need to stop. And he said, I'll do better than that. And he left the guild. So,
Yay! Problem solved itself. And yes,
Rengot says it. Oh, and he says, Rengot says in officer chat, well, I guess that worked.
It's a self-solving problem. And yes, Yunfei, I know it was old Yeller, but good for you on catching that Lassie was not, in fact, the one that got put down.
Indeed. Well done, sir.
And with that, of course, let's go ahead and go over to our phone lines, so to speak, and get on here with Rahanar. I think I said that right. Did I say that right, Rahanar? Rahanar?
Rahanar? Yeah, I think that's right. Rahanar. There you go. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yay, Rahanar.
Are you there?
Hello.
Uh-oh. Damn it, Discord. Every time.
Difficulties.
Well, you unmuted him. I can see he's not muted anymore.
His light's going green, but we can hear nothing.
I'll tell you what, Rahanar. We'll continue our conversation if you want to fiddle with that for a minute.
You went into the waiting room.
He did that on his own.
Yeah.
Just let us know in chat, Rahanar, when you get that taken care of, and we'll pull you back down. So,
indeed.
But
I think we've all experienced that.
Uh-huh.
It's quite annoying.
Yeah, and so like creator consumer, like what do you guys what does that mean to each of you?
Well, for me, people who are RP consumers, and there's nothing wrong with being a consumer. Some people just don't want to take the time to make all their own stories. And so they ride in on other people's stories and they ask other people to include them. There are two types of consumers. That's the first kind. And I don't mind the first kind because they're honest. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I just want to be included in some sense and I will be happy. The other type of consumer that I've run into as a guild leader are the people who not only want to be included, but they want to star. And if they can't star, then you're not including them.
They don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Our guest is back.
Yay!
All right. We'll go ahead. Give another try here. You there, Rahanar?
Yeah, can you hear me this time?
Y'all play.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm an idiot.
It's all right. You're in good
We all
company.
are. You're in good company.
I mean, have you met Sib?
Aww.
And I agree that she's good company.
Good
there we go.
deflection. Good deflection.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost
What
like
I
you're married.
I liked.
Talk about was that in the current state of role playing, I'm not 100% positive. It's been a while since I've role played, but when I last role played, the state of role playing you had to make your event accessible because it was very much that if you were not a member of the kind of clique that was running the event, you were ignored as a role player.
Yes, that is definitely something.
That is often a thing for guilds in particular who they already have an outcome that they want, and they're only including the people that they want to succeed, and everyone else. Right. And so, like, a guild I was in was like that. It was really annoying because if you weren't part of their little group, everything you did was completely ignored. And it got to the point where I didn't even go to their events.
Was that one you were saying, like, it was the top 5?
Yeah,
people?
The officers.
Yeah.
All the officers and the person that was the guild leader did and they had some really neat events. But unless you were part of their little group, nothing you did would be allowed to succeed. And it didn't take more than a couple of events to figure that out.
Yeah. And that seems to, I think that changes now from game to game. I know it was really bad in EQ2, but that was also towards the end of the community. You know, I say the end, but
yes.
5 years of it slowly ending. I've noticed for the majority of times in, like, say, ESO, for example, which is, obviously what we're playing now, and I can't speak for other games. Well, Final Fantasy XIV, when we were playing that, wasn't too bad either. It seems to have evolved, and that seems to have gotten better, I think, a little bit. It's not perfect, and obviously clicks are always going to be a thing. I mean, high school.
Indeed.
But it does seem to have gotten a little better, at least in the stuff that we've participated in both, like, Alanu and in Servants of the Temple, and just out in the world. I mean, Jazz, you're out in the world a lot more than I am. Does that seem like the stuff at the Riften? Is it better in ESO than, like, say it was at what the fuck was that place called in EQ2? The Blood Haze.
The Haze.
Yeah. Is it better there?
No, the Haze was still better, I think, in many ways,
so?
because everybody was kind of on equal playing ground, and everybody understood that, you were all basically equal adventurers, rawr. We didn't have as much of that. Now you have people, of course, who want to be the best of the best of the best, and you're always going to run into that. But,
well, no, I just meant like exclude he was talking about the excluding people.
Right. The exclusatory thing I've seen so far in most of the guilds that I've been in and been a part of.
Yeah. But
I think that there's this idea that only the officers and the people that all know each other should be allowed to advance the plot of the guild. And in Silver Circle, that was one thing that people commented on when they joined us, was that, wow, you mean you're going to let my character do X, Y, and Z? I said, well, your roles just kicked everyone's ass. So yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, just because you're new doesn't mean you can't do something.
Right. And everybody got a chance because it was all up to roles, and it kept everything pretty equal, which I thought.
Rahanar, what was the last thing you said? You don't role play a lot right now. What was the last one you were role playing in?
I am Yunfei's husband.
Yeah,
just so you know that.
Hi.
Yeah,
I knew that because she's awesome. And by the way, anybody that doesn't know that, Yunfei, that's the person that did all of the art for the show. Because she's awesome.
Indeed.
Yes, she is awesome.
Yeah, we met in EQ2. We played EQ2 for a long time. Then we've actually hopped in the last few years around to ESO, Final Fantasy XIV.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, I think, were the last ones. We both played Secret World. I think is the most recent one we did, and they all have pretty active roleplay communities.
Yeah.
But I think EQ2 is probably the last serious role-playing community that we ever did.
The one that's stuck and that you were able to keep on going with and going. I know for Yunfei for sure, because, I role-played with her directly. Yeah. She was my daughter.
Yep.
And she was tiny and
Poor
she had
thing.
wings. I know. Hey. He child
but
abused her to make her stronger.
Yeah. But as kind of that person that joined late to a lot of the roleplay communities, I think my advice as that person is, if you are running an event, look for the people that aren't saying much and involve them. Try to get them involved because they may be scared to join in the roleplay. And that can lead to the feelings of exclusion.
which is one of our
yeah.
topics coming up.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right too, because I mean that's something I like. Well, it was like just the other night with Tam, just Tam. She got dropped off. I was like, oh, she's got literally knows nobody here, so come on over here and sit down. And it really only takes one person to do that. If you got 5 people there, is it really hard for somebody to just be like, hey, let's try to include this person?
It's the same thing I did the other night when we were healing Sia. We got Eric's to come over. He said, I can heal, but he kept sitting at his bar, like not wanting to move. And I was like, hey, come here, Nord. Show me what you have. And my high elf made him like prove his mettle, and he got included. He didn't stick around very long, but he still was included.
Right. And if they don't stick around long after that, that's on them, and it's maybe they got to go. They were only there just to check it out, and you still included them. It's like the first impressions can make especially on a game as a whole and as a role player. Like I know what you were saying, Final Fantasy 14 and the Secret World, they have very strong roleplay communities, especially on Balmung and on Secret World. I forget what the server is, but I see them on Twitter all the time because it's modern day, and they tweet as their characters on this. I think it's Secret World RP or something like that. So I know they've got an active community, but if you go on there and you're hanging around and nobody interacts with you, it does make the community feel as though it's very closed off. But then again, of course, it depends if you're trying to interact with them. Because if it's one of those things where you walk up to them like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And they're like that.
Yeah. See, that's all my characters are very outgoing. And so it's not as hard for me as it is for some people to be included because I don't take no for an answer. Especially if they ignore me the first couple of times, I'll give it a couple of whacks before I'll actually just walk off.
Yeah.
I did that in the guild that I had a problem with, was because I kept trying as my character, who is a very forward fighter, to jump into the fray and start doing stuff in battle stuff. And they completely ignored everything that she did as anything other than a very good, you did your thing. Now let the adults play.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
real
just,
people.
Yeah, and after a couple of tries, I just stopped going.
They basically, I know you won't get the reference, but they Yamcha'd you.
I want to say Chattahoochee made a point in the chat, the Twitter chat. Back in the day of AOC, which I'm thinking is Age of Conan, my character really said a word at the start and people wouldn't stop talking to him. Didn't he play?
Yes.
Either things have changed or the community has. Not really sure. And I want to say, I think it's the community. I think a lot of people
I think so too.
Are nervous about
There's
trolls.
Been so many trolls and so many god modders and so many people taking things personally.
Well,
I think everybody's just a little shell-shocked.
I mean, Age of Failman was full of trolls. It was what it was.
Well, it was, but I have
it
to
had
say,
some good stuff in it.
AOC was a lot of fun. And when Chattahoochee and I were there,
it was a very short period of time where it was good before it fell apart utterly. Like,
we
maybe
were
a year,
also
2 years.
It was about a year and a half.
Yeah,
on
the nerf of
PvP server.
Back that game.
The nerf hit, and everybody was like, "Oh, screw you!" And we all left.
That's the exact same thing that happened to Star Wars Galaxies. Literally.
And I will say also in AOC, part of the problem was that there was a guild there that had at least 30% of the population of the roleplay population in AOC was a part of it. It was a huge guild.
Because it was a very small roleplay community, so it was easy for them to get that much.
So there was a good, a couple hundred people in this one guild, and it exploded in drama. And that in and of itself damaged the roleplay community. And it never really recovered from that. And then the nerf hit, and that was the end of that. But for a very short period of time, there were a lot of role players there that used to be in EQ2, that I used to know. And we all interacted. It was like the golden days of EQ again, where people would walk up and just start talking anywhere. And it was a lot of fun. And as Chattahoochee said, people would just, even if you were just standing there or sitting there, people would come up and start role playing with you, or trying to at least.
Yeah.
So, and that has changed because that doesn't happen as much anymore.
And I will add one more thing. I know I get gun shy of just walking up to people, point in case. The other night, me and Strafe were in Rift just RPing, and I started talking to, I don't know, remember the name of the character, but
The
it was
Purple Orc.
yeah, and the purple orc, and just trying to be friendly and just strike up a conversation. And at first, everything was fine and dandy, and then next thing you know, he's like, "Oh, come on, baby, you know you like me," and and I'm like, you know what? I actually told him, I said, okay, enough is enough. My character doesn't RP like that. You know, come on, back off. He wouldn't back off. Finally, I was like, okay, you're on ignore now. I'm sorry. I don't do stuff like that. I said, if you're into real RP, you know, that's fine. But this is ridiculous. But I have trouble approaching people just because of that, because you just never know what you're going to get.
Yes. And there
That's
are
true.
so many people now, and as an old person and someone who's been doing this a long time, this is true in all walks of RP. So
Jazzy,
I have
we
heard
remembers.
I have heard from people that LARP, I've heard from people that SG that do all kinds of both in-person roleplay and online roleplay, have said that the community has kind of soured because a lot of the good role players, you know, have lives and kids and don't have much time and are not around anymore. And the people that are there have no life, no job, and they're all a little crazy. And that has caused, I think, this cringe factor to get worse,
Okay,
in my opinion.
I was thinking of this when you guys were talking. Is it because I'm going to make a correlation with conventions? Back when I started doing conventions it was 2001, just dressing up as a Jedi, cosplay wasn't even a thing yet. Wasn't a word that even existed when I started doing that. There was no the UUs and you know, all these professional cosplayers. It wasn't even a thing. Conventions were still this nerdy thing. We had a thing out here called Trek Expo, done by a local comic book store called Starbase 21, who eventually went out of business, as most comic book stores have. But this was before the Wizard Worlds and the Comic Cons and stuff, where there were just this massive gathering of people. Now, over time, and I'm going to just correlate this into roleplay, it was a nerdy thing, only nerds did. It was a very small, tight-knit community. But like now with roleplay, like these conventions, and I only say convention, I'm bringing up conventions because everybody that sees pictures of these things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whereas before, it was in the basement of a hotel or the lobby of a hotel's grand ballroom or something like that. Now they're in these massive, like...
Now it's big business.
It's a giant thing. You know, when I started, it was $20 to get in. I've got autographs from people like Ray Parks, Darth Maul, Chewbacca, Jury Bullocks, Boba Fett. I got all of their autographs for $20. You can't get an autograph for under $50 now, almost, unless it's like a serious B-list actor. And even then, it's still going to be $40, $45. And for a lot of them, you know, even ones from things like, how much did we spend to get James Marsters autograph and a picture with him? Was that, what, $100, hon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
And that's Spike from, you know, he's not exactly, I mean, he's not Nathan Fillion. I mean, I like the guy. I love James Marsters. I think his character was awesome. And he's a super cool guy. And he does a fucking amazing job doing the audiobook of the Dresden Files. But he's still not like even Nathan Fillion level, or someone like Chris Pratt, or some of the, you know, all these mega nerd stars that we have these days. And yet you couldn't get to see them for under $100 practically. And so has roleplay, is it just like conventions? You know, it's not just the nerd culture has expanded and become, especially with the prevalence of smartphones and the fact that everybody has a computer. The internet's this big thing, as opposed to 2001, where this internet was this kind of geeky little like chat room, EverQuest sort of, you know, nerds thing. But now for everybody, that culture has expanded. I mean, look at the success of, even though they're awful, like the DC movies, or even better, the Marvel movies, all these superhero things, all that nerd stuff is huge. Video games have expanded to a multiple $billion industry. So is that part of what has done it? That it's
Yes.
where it was such a tight, where it was such a constant, it's like you
I had a friend once
concent-
say,
concentrated
Wow.
pool of something, and now it's been slowly expanded and expanded, but not necessarily the concentration may not. The pool's bigger, but the chlorine level was still the same as it was back in the day. Does that make? I mean,
does.
Yeah.
I have a friend that said he liked WoW, but he kind of hated WoW because it brought the wrong kind of players into the MMO world.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's just an expansion of that kind of idea. We
Could I interject?
Yeah.
yes, you can.
Oh, sure.
I think that yes, you're right that it has expanded, but what I wonder is if that has led to an influx of players that don't know the etiquette to a lot of things. So it could be an
That's true.
opportunity.
Or that they don't even care about it.
A lot
That,
of them
I'm
don't
sure
care.
you're going to have that.
But the teaching thing is true. I think that it's being missed because people need instruction and they're not getting it.
I like that point. That is a very good point, Raynar. Because I know there are some
If-
young players that they seem like they don't. They're trying to get into the RP scene, but they
Yeah.
don't understand it.
And
Like they're doing weird things, and it's like,
And everybody was new once. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not bashing on new people. We actually
No,
we
no,
want
and
them, but we want
that's why we're doing the
quality, too.
show is
Exactly.
to help people
If
It's
only-
also-
get into RP.
It's also an influx of, and I hate to do this because people are going to think I'm bashing on them, and I'm not. I don't have a problem with ERP at all. myself.
Cyber
It has a place.
sexers.
Well, no, that's a completely different thing. Role playing out a sexual situation within the context of your character can be fun in the right place, as long as it doesn't become the only reason that you're role playing, in my opinion. Now, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is there is a huge influx of very lonely, isolated people who are coming into role play, and that's all they want is interactive.
Instead of doing
porn.
the cyber thing on random forums and stuff, now they're using the interactive game mechanics to basically
Right.
do the same thing, but they're
And that's
calling
all
it
they
role
want.
play. Is that
Right,
what-
and that's
is that
all
what
they
you're
want.
saying?
And they've learned how to role play, and they've learned that that's how to get in with role players. But there's a large group of people that all they want is this wide array of how can I get you into bed? Let's make it as interesting as possible.
Right, and that's for the ERP episode. This is RP creators versus RP consumers. So our next topic is
Yeah.
I know.
What?
I'm just saying
Keep
that,
us in
that
line,
has
Mr.
soured.
Faye.
Yeah.
That's just soured things, I think, and
Yeah.
we're kind of
That's-
discussing
It has.
what has sent things
What
a little
has-
sideways.
What has set things from basically people just complaining about things not being created and
Right.
consuming when they're all they're consuming is ERP, which of course is easy to create, but usually between 2, maybe 3 people. We don't judge.
we don't judge.
or more. Anyway,
So gang, what is an RP
Hold-
creator?
hold- We still have Rahanar on the
Ah, that's right. Rahanar, the show is
did
yours.
you have anything else you wanted to say, Ra?
No, I mean the only thing, and this may not be appropriate for this episode.
No,
so
just
I
go for it.
apologize.
Go for it.
The only thing I would say is that in an effort to get new players involved with whatever your event is and things like that, sometimes it just takes sending them a tell or sending them a whisper and saying, hey, are you interested in the event? Do you want to be engaged? And, say, well, if you need advice or if you need a hook, work with them, get them involved.
And I have done that. And I think some of us
Yeah.
have done that when we're talking
Yeah,
to people
well,
in
that's-
tells. Or I had somebody say, wow, CL's really interesting. How did you develop her? And they were really curious, and they obviously, judging by their name, were not a role player. But they were curious, and they were obviously curious about role play.
Well, I would hope everyone here would do that. You're doing a podcast on role play, and y'all would
No
better do
kidding.
stuff like that. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
in a lot of trouble.
Right.
No
But I
joke.
mean,
Take our
I
own
enjoy
advice.
I enjoy having people send me a tell and say, how do I do this? Or I had a guy send me a
Exactly.
tell and say, hey, is it okay if I bring my character back to the dead? And I
Yeah.
was like, well, how did he die? Well, he's in pieces. No, that probably wouldn't work. And people are probably not going to take you seriously if you try.
And-
Well, what if he's raised from the dead and put in someone else's body? That might work.
Yep.
Just keep in mind that you're going to have people who are going to be like, uh-huh.
He's Frieza.
So- Yeah. So it's important to reach out to people, and when they, like he said, if and sometimes you have to reach out to them if you think they're having. I've done that when somebody is using smiley faces in role play, and I've just sent them a very nice tell. It's like, okay, first of all, the reason no one's have you noticed people aren't responding to you? Yeah, what's up with that? Okay, don't use leet speak in internet jargon.
I always find that kind of cute in a way. Not like I'm not like talking down to them. It's just like, oh, you're brand new. You're a little baby.
Yeah, you're so cute. Here, let me help you. Yeah,
you're a sprout. As Final Fantasy 14 calls them. But no, you got any last things to say, Rahanar?
No, and I guess the only other thing I would say is that it's very easy to get your own character involved in an event just by doing something simple. For example, my character, when I started role-playing in EQ2, had a stutter. And
yep, that's always a good one.
And it just evolves from there. So, I mean, it's difficult sometimes because I think with the influx of players that have come into the role-playing scene, people are shy. They're all, like you said, they're introverts. They're lonely. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And that's where if you have a character that's up front, like I have with Cial, who will literally walk up and talk to anybody. She has absolutely no guile, no shyness, nothing. She'll just walk up and say, "Hi, do you like boys or girls?" So I've brought a lot of people into roleplay that maybe I wouldn't have included themselves, particularly in Rift and RP, if I hadn't kind of drawn them out and said, "Hey, come join in." So it is important, I think.
Yeah. But, well, I appreciate you calling in, Rahanar. You know what? Give Yudfei a hug for me. Tell her she's still the best. She's the best daughter I've never had. And I do appreciate you calling in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, have a good one. So, yeah, his had very good points on that. It is one of those things. You just kind of got to make sure you put yourself out there. If you're new to roleplay, and like Jazz did when she was first doing it, just kind of observing, there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you see someone doing that, there's no reason not to approach them. They might just be consuming, but just that little step, you might be able to help create some roleplay with them.
Convert them like they did me from the PvP side.
That's right, from the dark side of the PvP.
Yep.
All right, so what do you got next, man?
So what is an RP creator in y'all's opinion?
You and Sib? Sib?
What's an RP creator in my opinion?
Yes.
Somebody that comes up with good stories, or it doesn't even have to be, well, it kind of has to be a good story that involves people.
It doesn't have to be an event.
That draws people into it, and it honestly, it keeps drawing people into it, because people can't be on all the time. I mean, like me, I was sick 2 days this week, so I was out Wednesday and Friday. So it's kind of frustrating whenever, I don't get to get in on some of the story RP. But I understand because, sometimes it's just a one-night story. But if somebody can make up a story in-game for whatever game you're playing and just keep drawing people into it, then to me, that's what I consider a good creator. Was that the question? Did I answer that correctly? Am I going to be quizzed on this later?
You did.
You will be awarded no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Oh.
No, in my opinion, an RP creator would be someone who either does some small RP in the tavern, just trying to get people to chat, or you plan a whole big event and you try to get your guildies and some of your friends involved.
And creating roleplay doesn't have, like you said, it doesn't have to be like, well, I've done this 2-hour-long dungeon master thing. That's not necessary. I mean, obviously, that would be creating roleplay, but that's not all there is to being a creator. Like you said, man, that's sometimes just being like, hey, how's it going? What's up with the, like if they, what's up with the scar on your face or something,
right?
Just the basic interaction can really help that, and then you're creating role play together. You go from being just somebody that's just consuming everything around you and not really interacting with it to creating something. Even if it's just between you and another person, that's still creating something. I mean, that's how babies are made.
Perfect example. something got mentioned about my tune's Evil Brother, and Lord Next, which is your tune, said, "Hey, what's going on with this Evil Brother?" So I had to explain it, and then it started creating other RP
Mhm.
branches.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's creating.
Yeah, does he have a goatee, by the way? He has to have a goatee if he's going to be the evil brother.
He does. He's like Evil Spot. He
Okay,
had one.
I was going to say, you got to give that homage at that point. If you're going to do the evil twin thing, you got to go have the soul patch thing going.
Quit, get out of my brain. Quit looking at secrets.
See, that's right. Well, that's
Good
No,
stuff.
and I will
how
say
else will you
it's
know them
hard
apart?
to be. It is hard to be a creator because
Sometimes you got to jump out of your comfort zone.
yeah, because
Yep.
a lot of
Yeah,
people
you
get in
really
that
do.
comfort zone and they want the RP to come to them.
Mhm.
And it like I'm just going to use Kishimus's and Evul's event the other night, the prisoner torture.
Yeah.
And when there's so many people in an event like that and they're creating the story and like we were interrogating the prisoner and there was probably, would you say, about 10 of us?
Give or take.
Okay. And they say, turn the cell over, look for everything. Well, everyone starts doing that. And you're like standing there going, okay, everybody's already, looking in this nook and cranny. What am I going to do?
Jazz?
It gets intimidating. You need to, it's hard to jump in at that point. So
Jazz, what do we want from Jazz?
Jazz, do you agree with our descriptions of RP creators, or do you have a different?
I do. I think, but it's also like she said, with a you create RP with a willingness to include other people, because a lot of people make stories, but they're not really creating RP because it's just for them and their consumption alone.
Yeah.
And that does not
The
cause people to create RP other than for yourself.
the coming in with the story of off screen somebody got into a huge fight and then they were healed, but then basically all they do is come back and be like, yeah, hey, I had this huge thing happen, and everyone's like, well, that sounds very interesting, but you're like literally the only one there.
and
So
don't.
now what?
Oh, we'll go. Wait till the consumer. I had a consumer comment, but I'll wait till the next part.
You are
But
a
no.
consumer.
So
I do consume a lot of things.
that's a great topic, Civvies. What is an RP consumer in y'all's opinion?
One sec before we. I want to read Chavahuchi from the chat because they're not calling in because they might not be able to, or they might be super shy. It's okay, we forgive you. So, but they did write this out here. I feel like an RP creator is usually someone who enjoys telling stories. They can have a plot. They can have a plot that they want to share with other role players, and the better ones usually roll with the punches as it shifts and changes, or those who just interact with everyone around instead of just the one person or several that they know. Either way, they want to tell their story, small or big.
Yes, I agree with
I
that.
agree.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a guy named Saba something or another. I can't quite
Ah.
remember.
Yeah, it does sound familiar, doesn't it?
I don't know whatever happened to that guy.
Chavahachi?
Javahachi, yeah, that guy.
Mm.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I could see where I could see where you get that comparison, given that they don't share any letters. All right, so consumer. I just wanted to read that because that was a good description.
That was a great point too. Thank you for that.
So consumers, people that are the bad guys in every Ayn Rand novel.
Mhm.
Yes.
Good stuff.
No, actually, it's pretty much Actually, that would be true. People that let's see, I'll take this one because I didn't do a creator because basically there's nothing I would say on creators that you guys didn't say already because you covered it very well. Not as well as obviously I would have if I had gone first. Clearly, I mean, obviously, but no one pronounces your name. You know what? We never even did have you actually pronounce your name right, Rahanar. So I'm just gonna call you Rahanar.
Rahanar, I like that.
Consumers are people that a lot of times they just kind of hang out and like they'll do the basic interaction with somebody. Like if you try to interact with them, they'll be like, yeah, hey, how's it going? Are you doing all right? You having a good time? Yeah.
Nod. Slash nod.
Nods. Did you come here with anybody? No. Would you like to get a drink? I got one.
Yeah. That's so true.
What do you do for a living? I can't tell you. It's secret. Okay. All right. Well, how about what's your favorite color? Clear. God damn it.
You try everything and nothing ever works. Yeah, can be very frustrating.
To me, that's the kind of consumer. And then of course there's the ones that come on and then they just bitch or they don't even consume it. There's those too. There's that whole other class. There's the non-consumers that then complain that they're not consuming.
The ones I've seen, besides the one that are not consuming, are the ones that literally wait for you to show up so that you can create stuff for them to do. And if you can't do it for them, then they start complaining.
Yes.
Like some of our Silver Circle deals where Jazz would do something, and it's like, are we going to do anything this week, Guild Leader? And Jazz is like, maybe. Check the calendar. Why don't you read the forums?
I know. We would always post like, we're going to do this at this time, and I'd schedule it so that we talk about what would work best for people to show up. And there's always at least two people going, so are we doing an RP event? And if you said, well, yeah, it's on the calendar. Can you tell me about it? What's expected? What's the backstory? Is it there?
It's on the forums.
Read.
God damn it. It's in the Guild.
I hate the forums. I don't want to read about it. Just tell me about it.
It's in the MOTD.
And right now, I will say it's a lot easier because Discord, a lot of guilds will put their stuff. I know Strafei is good about it. Every time he has a poetry night, he goes around and posts it in all the Discord channels. Yeah. So people know that we're going to do a poetry night. And
Servants does that. And yeah, you go ahead. Sorry.
Servants does it too. They have a channel in Discord, Temple News, that if there's an event getting ready to happen, they post it in there.
Yeah, and it's only able to be done by officers so that, it's doesn't get spammed with like, hey, yeah. I'm just, I'm farting in the guild hall. But, it's for actual events. But if you want to be like, hey, and I've seen people do it in just the general chat, like, hey, a couple of us are hanging out in the guild hall, come, fart around with us. Yeah. And it's just as good,
So Discord has really
bumped awesome.
up. You have no excuse now, consumers.
Ashen, we seem to have a guy in call waiting.
Yes, we do.
Ugh, let's just ignore him. I think it's somebody I've known before, so I mean, we're just gonna leave him.
No, we got to pay attention to him.
He's got
Darth Vader helmet on.
Drag him in here, and we'll give him a chance to let it catch up, because as we've all heard from everybody that gets drugged out, it's a bit disorienting. So without further ado, let's go to our caller lines and go to Saba, who is also, I believe, the Chattahoochee of Twitch.
That's Chattahoochee, bro.
That is me.
It's
welcome.
Yes,
it's whatever the hell I say it is out loud. How's it going, Saba?
Oh, wonderful. That was incredibly disorienting to go from listening to
being live. That's right. Yeah, because then you're hearing it without the 5 to 10 second delay. Yeah.
Surprise! You're now the chicken on the hot plate.
It literally is. Even though we call it a radio show, we're obviously not a radio show because we don't go over radio waves. But it is literally, we've had the same thing of, if we could get you to turn down your radio in the background, so you won't. There's a delay. And when you call it the show, make sure you turn your radio down every time.
I mean, I'm a little behind, but I did just audibly groan at "I hate the forums." That just bugged me more than anything.
You were one of those guys, dude.
Oh, man, we had them for a reason.
And now we still have them, but now we've also got glorious Discord.
Glorious Discord.
I will say, I still use forums just because I write.
Stories.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people.
It's largely unused at this point. I'm surprised how many people who like to RP and type but don't read, and will tell you, I don't like to read
or write stories.
Or read or write stories.
That's one that always gets me, is people that say, I don't like to write, but they role play. Kishmis is actually one. He's an excellent role player, and yet he doesn't write because he said, what did he say? He said he's not that good of a writer. It's like, dude, I've read your fucking role play. You're a great writer. The only difference is you won't be bouncing off the other part of it. Like,
maybe
it's not you're not. I mean, I can get it. You might, like Rahanar says, you might hate writing, but if you're role playing, you're kind of already writing.
You're
It's a
already
weird
writing if you're a
transition
role
for
player.
me. But anyway,
Does
that's
it-
neither here. What do you got, Saba?
Does it stem from maybe I don't want to have to do both sides?
It could be, or maybe I think honestly, I'll say this. I think this actually for some people just might not like writing, to do both sides. I think some people, when you're role playing with somebody directly in the game, you're both doing the same thing at the same time. But there is something, and I think Sib can back me up on this because she had this anxiety recently when she first started writing a story on your own where it's only your idea, the entire thing from start to finish, the dialogue, the setup, the description is all yours, and then posting that online for others to see, be able to critique and judge. I think that is the nerve-wracking difference between role-playing and writing.
It is very nerve-wracking,
I know
will say.
It doesn't make a difference to me, but
I still get nervous when I
But
post
there's that.
stories or writings. Anything I post, I still get kind of like, yeah.
So Saba, what's your take on RP consumers?
I think, first of all, most RP consumers are the people that just show up, and then when you try to interact with them, they won't interact with you, or they'll either miss what you say or pretend they didn't hear what you say and then launch into their own life story because it wants to be
In the middle of the event.
in the middle of other people's role play going on around them.
You mean
when there's
like,
like
so
10 others.
how's your night? I remember the Great War of 15 years ago.
Yes. And,
It was
I
a
do
long
think-
and dismal battle. There was death and destruction, blood streams running around me as I hunkered down in my little hole. My
Heads in
best
the
friend, yeah, when they just go into that, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, and I've noticed this too. There's also people who do seem to struggle with the idea of keeping on topic. So they walk into a situation where RP is ongoing. There's a conversation going on between 4 or 5 people about a certain topic. And then they hone in on one person and start talking about something completely different.
True story. Seen it a million times.
And it's not, I don't think they're doing it to be mean. I think, or even that they're clueless. It's that they don't know how to or they don't want to seem pushy to include themselves on the conversation. I'm not really sure why it is, but I know a lot of people do this. It's far too common for me not to say scritch, scritch. I don't understand why it happens, but I know this is a big thing. And then they don't understand why people don't interact with them because they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're talking about this. What?
I just asked you if you liked the wine. I didn't need to know about the 15-year-long war.
I know. And so it's always, or like they'll walk up
Can you
to
work
me like they
into
know me.
Can you work into the killing babies? I mean, a little bit.
Because like they'll know me, like they'll know Sial from a previous situation where they've talked with her before. And she's in the middle of debating why daggers are better than swords or whatever. And they'll walk up and say, hey, Sial, nice to see you. So how's the weather? And she's in the middle of a conversation with someone else. And she's like, she'll just turn and go, what? I try to bring them into the conversation, but they just keep talking to only Sial in the middle of this conversation where she's talking to 6 other people. I don't know how to handle that nicely. And I don't know how to address it diplomatically.
How to make somebody else pay attention to other people that were already in a previous conversation.
Right. Because I don't want to disclude them. I don't want them to feel bad. I know they're fairly new or they wouldn't be doing this because in most situations, the people that are doing this are very new or are very new to group RP.
Or
And
they just
don't
really,
know how to.
and they just really, really like you.
Or they're
Yeah.
autistic and don't know how to use those social cues. I've also run into that. But I think largely the biggest problem is that they're just trying to include themselves the only way that they know how. And honestly, I could use advice from anyone out there on how to gently, without because I'm a very blunt person, how to not say, dude,
No.
stop.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Stop making things up.
I will not shut up, Jazzy.
I don't want to hurt people's feelings, and I do not know how sometimes to address things. And you guys all know me, so you know I have a problem with this because I don't know how to say, "Can we talk about this now?" and not be just come right out and say, "Dude, what the hell are you talking about?" Address the conversation, and I
fuck is
hurt their
wrong with you?
feelings. and they go wander off, and I don't know how to address that.
I think there's levels of those RP consumers. Like there's that guy that Saba was talking about. There's another one that just hangs around and just doesn't participate. Then they're mad because they're not included. And then I think there's the really crazy ones that try to hijack your stuff.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
That happened a lot in EQ, where we'd be like right in the middle of something, and then it happened a lot because Jazzy's character was kind of known pretty well over pretty much the whole server.
Notorious.
Yeah.
Nicely put, my dear. You can just
She was so famous. She was infamous.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't famous in a nice way. Yes,
but at the same time, people would come up to your character and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" In the meanwhile, we're like, Strawface's character's bleeding on the ground.
They come up and say, "Hey, Buck, I haven't seen you. How's it going?" She's got her hands bloody. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre. That would happen all the time.
It's been better.
What do you say to that? How do you address that when we're in the middle of this? I remember this one time we were in public and we were in the middle of this scene where a couple people were really badly hurt. We were trying to deal with an attack that we had actually orchestrated in public, which didn't happen that much anymore, largely because of this scene that happened. And this guy just walked up and started talking to Vaca and was completely oblivious to everything else that was happening around us. And it was just like,
regardless of emotes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, we are in the middle of this. And he spent the next, I swear, 6 weeks telling everyone offline, in forums and otherwise, that we had not allowed him to RP with us but we had an RP, a public RP that we were only letting certain people join.
You know what that's called, right?
And I was like, what?
If you had been like, how can I help? Do you need hot water? You'd have been like, come on in. We need your help.
Right.
Instead, you're like,
nothing was happening.
So can I get anyone a nice brandy?
That's called epic butthurt, Jazz. Epic butthurt.
It was just it was completely, and I lost my temper with him OC eventually because he was just like, why won't you let me join in your RP? I'll be happy to. How about you interact with everyone else? Vaca's covered from head to toe in blood right now.
Yeah.
I've emoted that twice.
Scene.
You're not even acting like you can see what's going on. Well, he's just happy to see her. Really? And you don't notice that she's got a silver infected stab mark in her neck? Okay.
That happened a lot. Vaca covered in blood.
Yes, it did. That was a very common occurrence. Far too common.
Right. Well, I think we got that topic covered. Are we ready to talk?
Did you have what?
Keep us on the straight and narrow, straight.
Well, I was
we wander all over the
hard.
What was it? What was it you had to Saba? Is there anything specific?
Oh no! You called me out on not calling in.
Well, I was. Some people can't. Or we've had a few people that they're shy, which is understandable.
Way to prove him wrong.
Talking
Saba.
in front of a few, 100 people. I mean, obviously not right now. I think it's only about 10. We'll usually have about 10 or so people live, but a few hundred people might listen later. So no pressure.
Now, Rahanar said something very nice we need to read.
Yes, you want to go ahead?
Made a good point,
that's what I was reading.
He made a good point, Strapping.
I'll read it. Now you've mentioned the bad side of RP consumers, but they are also consumers that don't necessarily want to be involved, but want to be around for RP. Sometimes people will sit in the corner and listen because they're interested in the story, but don't exactly want to be a part of things? Question mark.
Actually, and I've asked people in an OOC tell, are you actually here or are you just watching? And people will say, I'm just watching. This is cool.
There's somebody,
okay, that's fine.
There's somebody in the servants right now that she does it a lot. Cersei, actually. She joins in on a lot of the events and stuff like that, but she'll follow along, but she's there out of character because she just wants to see the story. Now, of course, that difference is she's not expecting anybody to, to capitulate or include her like that or anything like that. She just wants to read the story. So she is consuming it, but she's doing it more like somebody that consumes a book or anything like that. She's... As opposed to, when we say RP consumer, what we're meaning is people that claim they want to be included and want to role play, but actually don't necessarily. But there are those people that, that they can consume things and we'll hit it on the positive side of this one. Because I know a lot of us we've been around so long that
we're cynical.
We remember it's like everything in life. You always remember like some of the worst moments and some of the worst aspects of things over like the good stuff that happens on a date. Like you can go 6 out of 7 days of the week turning out, pretty normal, pretty okay. And then that one day that was really, really bad, that's literally how your whole week felt like after that day. Regardless if that was the fact or not.
And I will also say that there are consumers, and we've run into them in Silver Circle, that were absolutely positive moments, but very random in the sense that somebody just walked up and asked how they could help, and they were given a bucket of water, and they were perfectly happy to hold that bucket of water and,
if that
whatever,
was just to be
help.
Included. And sometimes that's perfect.
Right.
I'm even okay with
and that. I
regardless.
like consumers like that. I wish there were more of them.
Yeah.
People that just want to be a part of the RP, but don't necessarily want to have a starring role. They just want something to do so they can be included in
and
that
I'm always
situation.
happy to take a background role. And if typically
Me
the only
too.
time I step up is if nobody like when Kishmas was saying in the last episode, once he's like there and he says like, hey, it's like search the room, and nobody emotes for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's rough, but there are a lot of people that consume role play around them, but they never complain about what's going on. They just kind of roll with the punches. They're always there. Just they're like let's see, what's a modern they're if anybody watches like the CW shows like The Flash or Arrow, they're the support characters in the background. They may not be the Flash or Arrow, but they're the nerdy sidekicks that are there in the background, that kind of thing, or they're for the old Firefly people, they're like Wash, who is a very integral part of the show, but he wasn't Malcolm Reynolds, he wasn't Zoe, he wasn't on the front lines of things.
The
support
Respawn
guys.
RP Netflix watches of the show.
Yeah.
I used to be that person until way back in Age of Conan when Jazzy's character came up and talked to me. It's all been downhill from there.
It has been all downhill, sir. I was
Everything's
there for
downhill
part of it.
from there.
And I completely corrupted him and pulled him into my weird stories.
I just got one thing to torment Saba with because he knows it and it goes back to the day. Are you ready?
Yeah, I already feel like I know what you're going to say.
Oh, Kevin!
That was a wonderful story, though. Being pirates was fun.
Yar.
Oh, that was good times. That was the best times I had in that game.
But no, I appreciate. But before we'll go ahead because we only got a little bit left in the show. But I do appreciate you actually calling in, Saba. And also, by the way, it's good to actually hear from you. It's been a long time since I've talked to you.
It has.
Either in
I'm
chat
around.
or voice. I think it's been even longer in voice, but especially in
Oh,
chat.
definitely.
So, but no, I appreciate you calling in. Sorry I had to call you out like that, but you know,
Mhm.
it's part of
No,
my
he's
it's part of my job.
Not sorry.
Sorry,
I
not
was-
sorry.
Yeah,
I was traveling home the other weekend. I probably listened to about 4 of these in a row, and I was like, I want to be on this.
Did you get
God
homesick?
help you.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Why would you listen to this show that often? Oh, it's bad enough
It's like-
I have to listen to it once a week. It's terrible.
Suck me in, man.
Well, no, I
Good
appreciate
stuff.
it. And if there's like anybody out there, if there's everything you want to hear us talk about or call in, I know we've actually had. I'm just gonna say this now. I've actually had a few people that have been like, "Hey, sorry to bother you," or I'd call in more, but I don't want to call in all the time. Dude, folks, don't worry about that. If you want to call in because you've got something to say, call in and say it. It's okay. I mean, text is fine, but we don't mind you calling in and helping the show out. And
It also makes us feel more like a radio show. So
yeah, it's
we like
perfect.
it.
It's perfectly fine, and and it's the interaction and back and forth, and us giving us the ability to just talk right over you constantly. It makes you.
And Ashen is very good at that.
So
Trust me.
anyway, like I was saying, it's just good to be able to hear from people.
So Saba, you missed Gormal. He was in here earlier, but we already.
Oh,
got
man.
recorded
Yeah,
back
he's
in.
already
Cool.
left. He
It's a
already
damn
gone.
shame.
yeah.
I mean, I heard him.
You could, if on
I
your
wasn't
way
here.
out, if you want to follow the trail of maggots and grubs that he leaves behind everywhere he steps, you can probably catch up with him.
I'm gonna run. I'm going right now.
I just wouldn't suggest it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, last
No.
time he had a busload of orphan children. This time, I don't think he's getting any.
that's-
Yeah,
we're old friends. It'll be fine.
that's right.
Bring him a
But,
hamburger. It should be fine. I can't guarantee it though.
That's right. But I appreciate you calling in, Saba, and thanks for listening, man. And I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And I hope you have a good night.
I have. See you.
Later.
Thanks, Saba.
Thank you.
Later.
See ya.
So, all right. So, moving Strafale, you go ahead. Hit, what you got next?
Well, we can allow Sibby's to read the next one, or I can read it. What do you think?
What one are we on?
We are
I
number
knew it was
4.
coming.
Wow.
It seems like we should be a lot further down. I
It
thought
does.
that was, I thought
we've
that's
kind
where
of
we were,
we've
but I was
kind
like,
of hit some of the others. We just did through the strolling of conversation.
are you
We
just
have.
wanting me to do my hot Jessica voice?
You can do it in whatever voice you want to, darling.
So
Number
that's a
4 is
yes.
yours.
So that's a yes. Okay.
Sorry. I have to real quick. Saba has just heard himself on the last end. As with everybody that does that, you don't sound as bad as you think you do.
Be
No.
afraid. Be very
Everybody
afraid.
hates the sound of their own voice. Trust me, it took me 10 episodes to get used to the fact that
I
sound
still don't
like
like
this.
the sound of my own voice. I can
I don't
hear
either.
Jason,
Oh,
my
Jazz,
husband,
you're not
listening to
alone.
my. Shut up. I can listen to my husband when he's listening to it, and I'll recognize Ashen and Sib's voice, and I'll be like, "Wait,
Who's that
that's
nerd?"
me? Oh my god!" Yeah.
Ugh, I sound like that. Ugh.
So number 4.
Number 4. I'll do hot Jessica since we don't have anything wrote up for her like somebody was supposed to. Passion. Okay. Number. I can't do it now. Thank you very much. Okay.
Will you stop it? Oh my god!
Well done, Mr. J. Well done.
Okay, let's try this one more time. Number 4.
Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
You're such an ass. I swear you're such an ass. Okay.
I can't do it again. If I do it again, I think I'm going to get a nose.
Number 4. Steps to take to bridge the gap to encourage RP creativity. Good night. That was awful. You're horrible, man.
So I think Renard, and I'm pronouncing it wrong, sorry, bro, brought up some of those topics earlier, but it does bring a good point. Some people you can actually bridge and talk to them and try to get them involved. Other people you can't. What do y'all think?
I agree. Some people you can and some people you can't. Some people just want to take the RP that other people create and make it their own. And I don't know if they can help it or if they just want that attention.
Yeah, we actually.
I
I think we're gonna hit that up on its own topic one day. Just because
Okay.
people
Might be
and
next week.
It's fine. Well, it's fine to get into it. Somewhat. But people. Because that's not necessarily creators or consumers. That's robbers. People that rob.
That's
and
story
steal.
hijacking.
Yeah, story hijacking is a good way of putting it.
Well-
People that when you start, there was an instance back in Star Wars, for example. Just a quick example: Sib had created a character that was her master that didn't actually exist, that had trained her character, and somebody else had in a story written and tried to kill it off, but without asking, and it was kind of
This
just
isn't on
hijacked it.
topic.
But
This isn't.
right, but that's there's that kind of thing, which isn't necessarily consuming or creating, right? I mean, you would think
Well, I think
It's
when
more-
you're
stealing.
when you're trying to include people, there's always a chance that they're going to try to steal, quote unquote, the limelight or whatever. But
Right.
when you're trying to include people,
that happens.
and
a
you
little
have
bit.
right, you're going to see some of it. Like for me, in particularly in Silver Circle, we wanted people to. We wanted them to borrow it and pull it into their own stories and do
Right.
something with it. So in some senses, we were encouraging it. as long as they didn't change certain facts. And that's what I always told people.
Yeah, and that was the
there
problem. Was it
right? And that was the problem, is that people were trying to change the story instead of using the story with their character.
They were doing rewrites instead of
they were trying to make
recreation.
Right. Like, because we had this was a certain off-world, non-mortal character species that was interacting in Norrath. And so they were trying to change the species so that it was more fun for them and there was less, because there was a lot of drawbacks. I am one of those people that believe that any character that has a lot of power also has a lot of. I want my characters to be balanced, and so I created this race with a whole lot of negatives. You know, like that genie thing. Awesome powers, itty bitty living space.
Incredible cosmic powers, itty bitty living space.
Yeah, that was kind of how I wanted to work that. And that was always hard to get people to understand, because they were like, well, that's no fun because that means of this and this and this. And one of the things I think that illustrates that the best is, like, we were all we would do icy instances. And one of the people in the guild took Vaka and they warded her against damage just as we were getting ready to go. Now, the bottom that they used, remember the mages that could use that ice shield and it would like go around your character?
Remember that. Mm-hmm.
And everybody knew
too. Yeah.
Yes, everybody knew not to do that in IC because
she was exceptionally weak against ice, yeah.
Right, it would like take her. So I got taken completely out of the RP 5 minutes before we went into the RP. Yeah. And he was like, "You could just say that it didn't work." And it's like, if that's what you want, then I'll stop that. But this is what happens, and we ended up keeping it.
If your spell is supposed to have fizzled, you need to say that your spell fizzled. I can't do that for you. So if you're casting on this,
I asked him twice. Are you sure that's what you want to do? He's like, yes. I said, you're absolutely certain. Yes. And then he realized probably 30 seconds later, oh, wait a minute. She was trying to stop me. Because then it hit Vaka, and then that was the end of that. So when you're trying to include people, though, I have a habit of scaring people off because I am a stickler for I don't retcon stuff very much. Mm-mm. So if you say something and I'm like, are you sure that's what you want to do? And you're very sure. And then you don't like the consequences afterwards and want to retcon it. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
makes people nervous.
I hate retconning if it can at all be avoided. There's nothing, because otherwise it's just a waste of time. You
just wasted hours of time.
Yeah.
Another step, and it was previously mentioned, is literally send the person a tell. See if you can try to encourage them to get involved, even with a small role, whether it be to hold the bucket or whatnot. And sometimes you might be surprised they might join in, and then you might have a new RP friend that you otherwise wouldn't have had because you spent the time to encourage somebody.
Yes, we brought several people into the guild that turned out to be great RPers by doing that.
It doesn't take much, really. Sometimes people just need a little shove, and sometimes, especially if they're brand new to the game, it's just everybody learning to interact with everybody. And every game has its own. The communities are all the same, but the details and the feel of them change. Like, the difference because the lore in the game itself requires it to be like. The roleplay community that exists in Final Fantasy XIV is different from ESO, and from ESO it's different than Secret World because theirs is in real life, as opposed, which even theirs, for an example, is different than how I remember the Matrix Online's, which is another real life game, sort of. Their community was entirely different than even the Secret Worlds.
I think each world is going to detail how you're going to pull people in, but it is important to do. Mm-hmm. To include people and to try to bend over backwards to include people. Yeah. And if somebody comes to you and says, I can't get involved with the clique, then you have to sit down and figure out, are they just being a big whiny baby face, or do they actually have a point?
It's I don't know, it's 50-50.
I know me, I try to, like, at guild events, I try to, like, interact with each person. That's my goal, because I know when I first started, I wouldn't interact. And I know I would love for somebody to just come up and say, hey, how's it going? But I was super shy, super unsure, so like an example. At Alanu the other night, we had 3 Dunmere, and I was on Volley, and Jazz was there, and Strafe, and Caves. And I was standing at the end of the bar talking to the 3 Dunmere. Well, something happened, so Strafe and Jazz and Caves left. And there was one character sitting down at the end of the bar by herself, and I was like, on Volley, I was like, hey, let's go down here so you can, join in the conversation. And I didn't know if she would or not. Well, she ended up moving down to the corner with us, and we
That
were
was
all
awesome
just
to
chatting away. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it just takes a little bit, They may be nervous, and I don't think she talked a lot, but she still came down there and, was part of the group.
Yeah.
It just takes that little bit of, come on, get down here.
Yeah.
Pressure. Takes that little bit of peer pressure. Get over here. But no.
That's Sibby's peddling the pure pressure.
That's right.
But no, it just, I don't know. I wish I would have had more of that when I was starting, which I did have it from Ashen and Jazz.
Yeah, but
because I knew them.
But and that's somewhat, and then things have changed. That's an entire episode itself. How when you're like when Sib was introduced through me, I already knew everybody and stuff like that. So in a way, she always felt like, I think she even said it a few times, like they only talk to me because they know I'm with you, and that wasn't actually true. I mean, that might have been part of it.
No, it wasn't.
But it wasn't really actually that might have been why they're like, oh, that's cool. But now that, like, it's like now when she's met people that are like, oh, that's so-and-so's husband or wife, and she's like, that's cool, but it doesn't make her want to role play with them anymore. It's just the fact that they're the person. But when you're brand new,
that's how it feels.
It can feel that way. But that's almost that's like that's a whole topic of we can get into.
Yeah, but just offer out a simple, hey, come on down and join the group. It's
agreed.
Yeah. So
I think
let's get on to 5.
I was going to say, I think we've covered that topic well.
Yeah, we
topic 5. Are you responsible for creating RP for others? ?
No.
No.
No, I agree. And here's why. Because if you spend your RP days catering to other people, you're going to be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, did I have to learn that.
And if you enjoy doing it, by all means, don't not do it.
True.
If that's what you get your enjoyment out of, it's like people that do D&D and that are constantly dungeon masters, but almost never actually play an actual character.
Yeah.
But they totally dig on creating the world and creating the story and having all that and making this epic quests and things like that for other people. That's where they get their enjoyment from. But if you had them on, say, the other side of the table, maybe they don't have as much fun. And there are those people.
It's true.
But you aren't required.
No.
I think that the key word is responsible. And I really felt that I was responsible for creating roleplay for the whole guild. And I literally burned myself to a crisp. Twice.
Yes, you did. 3 times.
You were like a microwave popcorn bag left in there for 10 minutes. You stunk up the whole house.
Yeah, it was bad. The last time that I burned out, I left EQ. I went and role played in other games, and I was in completely invisible. I didn't tell anybody who I was. I didn't start a guild. I just kind of went from guild to guild to guild to guild to guild and did my own thing. And I needed to.
Jazz. That's what you did.
You guys all warned me, and I wouldn't listen because you guys could see I was burning out, and I
like a fucking meteorite through the atmosphere.
Yeah,
yep.
And I
or
love
a Chinese
creating
space
RP.
station.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely love creating RP, and I love creating big events and all this. But
are limits.
The level of consumerism and the level of ungrateful drama hounds eventually ate me alive, and that is important not to do. Don't create RP to the point that you no longer enjoy the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's true.
Because I still create RP. I still have stories I'm working on with all of you in various parts.
And a random note that you will enjoy, Jazz. And when she did burn out and she ran off to these other games, this is completely off topic but funny. I started playing by myself as the lone Silver Circle guy, And this is when Sibby's ran into me with a baby on my chest, and this eventually lured Jazz back in the game.
Yeah, it did. It did. I eventually came back because I missed the role play that we had, but I never did it again to that level. I learned. And I still love making RP, but I no longer chase people down to do it. And if somebody's like, why am I not included? Because this is a group RP, so adapt or get out. And I'm afraid
because you didn't show up, Cupcake. That's
it took a while for me to get to that point where I could be hard enough and understand that I can't make everybody happy.
Everybody heard that. RP. Jazz is hard.
She did. So you can create RP and be an RP creator, but you better hope and you better dang well know that your friends are creating RP with you to complement and or expand the story of whatever.
Yes, because if they're not, you have to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, you're literally serving them, and they're going to eat you alive.
Yep.
Good topic. The topic 6. You want to read it, Sibbies?
I'll read it. Number 6. What are our responsibilities as RP creators and or moderators if you are part of the guild command structure?
Oh my goodness.
Varies from guild to guild.
Oh my god.
Okay. That was my hot Jessica for the night.
Oh my god.
Jessica's really turned to a beast into herself.
She has. That was awesome. I had to learn how to give my officers room to be officers. I did not know how to do that when I first started. Now I do.
To stop micromanaging all of us. We know what you're doing. We do not need you.
Yeah.
Fräulein Jess to tell us what to do. To take everything from us.
I was horrible about it. I drove Xanis crazy. I drove Strafe crazy. I drove all my officers. And I have to say, all my officers that I've had over the years, I love you guys. They took so much shit and did the best they could when I was trying to micromanage everything. So I understand now what I did, and I'm really sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
All good.
But to answer the question, it depends guild to guild. Like every guild has different requirements or expectations of their officers. Like in servants, they at one point they were only promoted based on the number of events and stuff they ran. It's no longer like that. It's more about the amount of interaction they constantly have, and also having the ability to run an event is good, but it's also not a extreme requirement to create role play for other people. So it will change from guild to guild.
It will, and I also want to say that I don't know how to say this.
Well, you should say something.
Silver Circle was completely and 100% run IC. While it was a fantastic experience and certainly made the immersion and the overall quality of RP very intense and great for people, it also created an undue amount of stress and drama for all of the officers and me. So I've learned that there's a lot more OOC to managing a guild and then there is IC.
You can't keep it completely, because I think in
service, I think you can, but it's really hard.
Well, you really can't, because eventually you have to take things out of character to deal with problem children. So it's literally impossible.
Yes, okay, true. It is impossible, but I tried to, and I think we did a really good job of coming up with a balance toward the end, but I think that it makes a lot more sense. I remember
all it takes is one.
The little frog girl.
Ribbit?
What was her name?
Gourmand's Lunch.
Hops.
That was
Remember Hops? She was in our guild forever, and she helped me OOC through so much stuff, but she wasn't an officer. And because of the way the guild was structured, I could never make her an officer. Because she was a baby frog. Literally, she was just a kid. There was no way.
But the player wasn't. Right.
Right. But she was wonderful. And now if she was in this game, she would be an officer, because I have officers that don't have anything to do ICLY as officers. So it's important, I think, to have that balance, because she was always saying I could still be an officer,
Just not in
And it-
character.
right? But I just, because of the way the guild was structured, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how I could change it without changing the entire structure of the guild.
You are inflexible.
I regret that. I think that
Yeah, she was
blending
she's
OOC and
smart
IC in that sense as an officer was important, and I missed that till the end.
kid. Mhm.
And by then she'd moved on.
I think our responsibilities are to help each other in dealing with the problem children and to keep the
Mm-hmm.
story rolling.
Yeah.
It's very important. One thing I think we did right, we had an OOC channel for officers.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And that was necessary. Woo!
yeah, and I
I know
think
this
most
is-
guilds these days do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is why I
have to.
don't like being an officer, because I don't want to be put on the spot to come up with RP stories. I like to do my RP stories when I want to do them,
Right.
and I don't have time. I mean, I don't have time. I want
It
to play so many
fluctuates.
different games and watch shows. I mean, I don't have time to do everything I want. So if I want to create a story, I want to create a story on my time that I can, put.
Sometimes all it takes
Make
is just your
good.
light role play in the bar, and that's all you need really to start something
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. The command thing or the
Sorry.
guild command, it's not for me.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be. Hunted90 in the chat actually has a good point too. It says, on the flip side, I think officers need to be micromanaged to a certain extent. I've been in a situation where, as an officer, there was no structure because of that. The staff and the players suffered, and ultimately, it was ended in the guild disbanding because there was, and that's like a lot of things. If I've seen it a lot of times in guild after guild after guild. If there's not if the guild leader isn't strong enough to hold they're literally like the what in arch architecture, that center stone that holds the entire arch together, the linchpin stone. If that thing if that thing isn't there, it isn't
Cornerstone. Yeah.
well, no, it's the one that's in the, like when you make a stone arch and it's the one right in the middle.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that's
I
called.
forget what it's called,
I
too,
know
but
what
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Keystone.
Yeah.
The keystone is, yeah, and if that thing isn't strong enough or it starts to crumble, the entire arch around that falls apart. Arkenstone, thank you. But that would, if your guild leader isn't strong enough to hold, and you don't have strong officers around you that actually all have the same mentality, it can easily take apart a guild and
It's
and
also,
destroy
I think-
all the role play around it because they're not creating anything, or it's just a mob. Nobody
We
knows
have
what's going
seen it
on.
many times, unfortunately.
It's also really important, I think, and this is something I learned that I didn't know
You
with
asshole.
Silver Circle. That
Okay,
I
so it's
learned.
not the Arkenstone. That's the stupid thing from The Hobbit. I don't like The Hobbit. 'Cause
I wasn't gonna say it, but
it's a
you said it, I
shitty
was
movie.
quiet.
It's a shitty movie and a worse book.
Anyway, I think that it's important to have RP creators as officers, and it's also important to have people who don't do that who are officers.
Yeah, who
Because if
who are
you
maybe
try
just
to
moral
pigeonhole
support.
people, right? If you just have somebody, I mean, one of the guilds that I was in that I was really impressed with when I was in Guild Wars was they had what's called firefighters, which I thought was really funny. That's what they were actually called, and those were the people that handled the drama, and they were very, very good at doing that. And then you had people who were storytellers, and those were the officers that handled creating RP stories and stuff. And I liked that separation, and they could still do each other's jobs if they wanted to, but it was important to understand that not everybody's a story creator, not everybody's a drama handler, and having strengths in one or the other is probably important to identify because in a role play guild, oh my God, there's always going to be drama. You're never not going to have it. It's always there.
It's always going to be there.
And it is a keystone. So take that, Masons.
Well, I think we covered that topic really well. I think our next point of business will be when to cut away from consumers that refuse to change and adapt.
Oh, this was so hard for me. You guys go first.
Ashen, we'll go with you first.
Right away. Like the second that they do something disagreeable, you instantly get rid of them.
Scorched
No.
Earth.
You vote
It's
them
his
off
fault.
the island.
No.
You nuke them from the orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Only way to be sure.
No,
No.
it's God, it is
There's
a tough
a nuance. There's a nuance to it.
It really depends because not obviously there's degrees of everything when it comes to personalities and people. So some people you can almost tell right away, like, this jackass is never going to get it. They're just going to be nothing but a problem, because there are those people. We've known those people, and they typically come and go out of the guild, and they're in and out so fast because we can pinpoint them so quickly. I don't remember a single name. We've had a few of those. Then there's others that it seems like maybe they could get it, if they just have a little bit of help. And then they don't, but then they do, but then they don't, and then they don't, and then they don't, but then they do.
Can I add something real quick?
I'm in the middle of a speech.
Shut up, stupid.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that one just flew out. No,
She's
okay.
learning so well.
If you are in a game and you have people that will not change or adapt, and they follow you to another game, that's when you cut them off.
Yeah, there's
Right?
that too. Yeah, if you've already had to cut them off once, you keep you don't invite. If you invite somebody over to your house, all right, for a party, and they drop an upper decker in your toilet, but then you have another party a year later, you don't invite that person back.
Nope, never.
Well, see, I disagree because
You're
going to
let them drop an upper decker in your toilet again?
But they may not. They may have learned. You don't know that.
I'm not
you
willing.
have
I'm not
2
willing
to
to play
3
the plumber.
points to align. So I learned. Let me say this. Let
Jazz do
okay?
her spiel
Okay.
and Sibby's turn.
As someone who has done this for a long time, one of the things, and I tried the scorched earth thing. I did do it. I tried a dozen different ways of handling people who are serial drama llamas. The best way to handle them
Sorry.
that I've
Sounds
finally
like a delicious
figured,
cereal.
It
Yeah.
does. Mushrooms.
and I know that a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but it's something that I tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. This is over 12 years of dealing with this. I came up with a way to handle them that's actually pretty effective, because you not only do you want to get rid of the person that's the drama llama, you also want to not generate more drama by getting rid of them than you would by keeping them. Because if you're going to generate drama anyway, and it's going to crescendo out of your control, outside of your control, because it's in other guilds, it's on forums. I had to suffer through that several times. You guys have to admit that. So
I admit nothing.
How to do this so that I didn't get blasted from space for doing what I needed to do for the guild. And the blasting from space the first time, or if you know they're like that and they come to another game and they do it again, they want to join your guild and you say no, that isn't necessarily going to work.
Right. Well, and I was actually being largely over dramatic.
Well, I know, but there's a lot of people that feel that way.
There's a point, true, but for me, there's a scorched earth does have its place, but
yes, it does, and I have used it.
It does have to be after your entire Space Marine team has been wiped out by a horde of aliens, over and over again, and you finally escape. But then you basically really do have to nuke it from orbit. But
yeah,
for me, I get what you're saying, Jazz, and I can agree to a point, but largely when it's like there's been people that have done it game after game after game, and frankly, I can't. They're not worth it. After 2 games of something like that, they're not worth the trouble anymore. If they have changed, awesome, good for them. However, it's not up to me to see if they have and to test those waters. They can create their own guild. They can find other people. But they've already burned the bridges to and from Rome so many times that, the taxpayers are tired of building the bridges.
Yep.
Yes. And I will agree to that. I agree that I often give people 2 chances.
Yes.
Which is why
and that's something I love about you and also hate about you at the same time.
But that is why in any guild I've ever had, we had a voting process.
That is true.
And I would say I want to give them another chance. But
and I will give you that. There were times where you were completely outvoted and you're like, really? No? But you still followed what the
Yes, I did.
You followed democracy.
Democracy.
I believe in democracy.
And I do believe in
Quote
democracy.
to
So
quote the emperor.
yes.
I
So
love
that-
democracy.
I will acquiesce to my officers because they have to handle the drama just as much as I do.
Mhm.
So I honestly believe if I get voted off the island for this particular
You get
point,
outvoted. Yeah.
if I'm outvoted, then I accept that they can't get in the island. And I will abide by that.
I always went by the 3 strikes you're out rule.
Yes.
First
Yeah.
error, okay, talking to. Second error, okay, come on, dude, get your stuff together. The third time they do it, sorry, bro,
Nuke
you're
it
out.
from orbit.
Nuke it from orbit. Yeah.
Yep. And there comes a time, and I'm the last person to nuke you from orbit. So if I've nuked you from orbit,
Yeah. And
You
I will
really
say my
burn
patience for it
things.
has gotten a lot thinner over the years. But that's also for everything in life, basically. So there's that.
true.
But anyway,
Sibbies, do you have any idea, comment on the topic?
I will say, since I'm not usually a guild, are you laughing at me now?
I think
Go
he's
on.
choking, actually.
He's dying.
Okay. He muted himself, thank goodness. Okay. My thing is, since I'm not usually in the guild command structure, I avoid it really. I don't really want to be part of it. If I come to somebody like that, I usually limit my RP with them. I try to avoid, getting into a story with them. That's what I do.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Because no one wants that toxicity in their RP, let's be honest.
Yeah. And if other people accept it, that's fine. That's them. That's not me. But I try to make myself, I don't go into a storyline with them.
sorry about that. I severely choked.
Watch those shots, brother.
Seriously, wrong pipe.
Well, I think we covered that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the next topic would be, and we've kind of already discussed it here and there when we first started
Yeah.
the show, was how to invest our guildmates in RP. But we've kind of already covered that, so unless you guys have other comments, we can move on.
No. I mean, obviously, if you're not including your own guildmates in your stories, you're, given not everything can be there. There's obviously private one-on-one role play, blah 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 blah. That it kind of goes without saying. But if you're doing a guild story, clearly involve your guild and all of them,
Right.
not just like the ones you like.
But I think this is more to they're in your guild, but they're not wanting to participate, but then they're complaining about no RP.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
those people, fuck them. Like you can't, you really can't do anything. Like if you're doing guild role play and everybody's invited and you don't exclude anybody in the whole time, and then the next day they're like, "Boy, there was role play going on. Oh, it's just nothing big going on all week." I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, because they're intentionally not trying to participate.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. That's where I
Real.
stand on that.
The last topic on this, and it's kind of one of my favorites since I was Jazz's axeman back in the old days, how to allow them to hang themselves.
Now, this is something I'm very good at. You guys have to admit that.
Yeah, grudgingly.
Jazz, take it away. You're number one on this.
You have to let people do this. This is something that I became absolutely convinced is the best way to deal with idiots, is to let them hang themselves. That you have to give them enough rope to hang themselves. And sometimes that means even promoting someone to officer just so that they can completely screw themselves.
They can fail spectacularly in flames.
Right. And I hate doing that, but I have done it to a certain person that will remain unnamed. And
I know
worked
who
like
it
a
is.
charm. And I voted whether or not we would let her in. She came in, she became an officer, and then she completely imploded and she was done. And then she was done. And then we nuked her from orbit. That. So, but I found that it's actually the best way to handle drama llamas is to simply give them what they want and let them hang themselves. Or like, for example, if somebody is going to get married, have a baby, and then run off, and you've warned the person and they don't listen to you, then all you can do is sit back and watch it happen. And when it finally does, they're like, "Oh, hey, I remember when you warned me about that."
Yep.
Yeah.
Ashton, what's your take on letting folks hang themselves?
Just make sure you use a really strong branch. I mean, there's nothing worse than when you're trying to hang a person and the tree gives way, you know, and then they get off on a technicality. That's just awful. No, I mean, it really is. Basically, it's exactly what Jazz was saying earlier with the nuke them from orbit thing. It's basically giving them enough room to hang themselves is giving them a chance after chance after chance. And I know there's been a few people. We've had them. Servants has had them. I don't think there's any roleplay guild that has lasted for more than a month, perhaps. Sorry, I'm still got throat thing. That hasn't had people that just, no matter how many warnings, no matter how many attempts to help them, continue to do the same stupid shit, and all they're doing is just spooling out that rope, and then you warn them, and then they're tying the knot and they're wrapping it around the other part, and then you're warning them again, and then they throw it over the branch and put it over their head and jump on the horse, and then you give them one final warning, and then they purposely look at you dead in the eyes as if this is going to prove something, and slap the horse on the ass as it takes off, and their neck jerks and their spine breaks. It's like, okay, well,
what?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Why'd that happen?
You just hate me.
So what I would do back in Jazz's employ as a dastardly officer, I would literally record these events they were literally doing exactly what you were explaining, Ashen. And then when it came time for them to flank the horse to hang themselves, I would literally start laying out the evidence one by one by one until they finally got either so mad they rage quit, or they would just have some cheesy excuse for it, which no one would buy because you're laying the evidence out against them right in the face.
Well, I have a hangnail and my great aunt's mother died. Well, that has nothing to do with you being an asshole in roleplay. I mean, I'm sorry for your loss, but that's not an excuse.
Yeah, one of the best things that he did for me was that, and he did it actually because I didn't believe that the person was a problem. So he just started screenshotting everything.
And there are those, okay, there are people that are devious enough that they can actually hide what they're doing from the people in charge that can make those calls, and only doing it behind the scenes where it's not seen.
Yes.
And that's I mean, that has really little to do with that, but in that vein, that is an insidious piece of shit right there.
And it happens a lot as a guild leader that you don't see it. And they're super sweet to you, or when you're on, they're everything. But the minute you log off, and I had this problem where I would log off and all this shit would happen. And I was trying to figure out who was pulling my leg. And I loved Ren to death. And I was like, fine, you know what? I'm not there. I don't know what's happening. So tell me what. Just get me screenshots. I need to see what's going on.
Robbie just float engaged.
Yeah, I needed to see it. And so he started providing screenshot after screenshot after screenshot after screenshot. And it was the end of it.
And you're like, go, man, you are not who I thought you were.
Yeah, I was like, what? You know, I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather with some of the stuff that you're doing. But until I saw a screenshot and I saw what was actually going on, I never saw it because they would not do that when the guild leader and most of the officers were around.
Yeah, I never suspected me, which is funny.
And I'm going to throw this in. Discord has made this a lot easier to do.
It has.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, because they'll do that. They can't hide it all the time. It's like we say when we're doing the show, like maybe we exaggerate a little bit here and there on some of the stuff just because it's slightly funny. But there are people that do like Twitch streams and podcasts that they try to get away with pretending to be what they're not, and being this Mr. Man and all that stuff. But that's not actually who they are. You can't keep that up. Eventually, you always slip, and you can't be who you are all the time and pretend not to be. Eventually it will slip. It's just the way of it. Or somebody sneaky will take screenshots.
Yeah.
Or somebody. I wonder who he's talking about. Come on.
So, all right. So what else we got before we wrap this up? Since we're running late again. So we thought expanding to 2 hours was going to be enough, but apparently we keep going over.
Apparently not. Yeah.
There was a lot of talking points early on. We got sidetracked.
Yeah, and the callers, which we, by the way, do appreciate, actually.
Yes,
It's
thank you guys
perfectly
for
okay
calling in.
callers.
We love to hear what you think.
Yes.
Ashton, I think that's about it, unless anybody else has a closing comment.
Yeah. Does anybody have any final thoughts?
Make RP have fun.
Make RP great again. Good jazz.
Make RP great again.
Oh my god.
I second that motion,
That's
Ashton.
right.
Oh my god. I'm gonna go kill myself now.
Hey, don't slap that horse. We just,
We're gonna,
You know what
what?
happens.
We're gonna build a wall between us and PvPers, between the role players and the PvPers,
Oh.
and we're gonna make the environmental players pay for it.
Stop. Stop. Oh my god.
He's getting pumped up for
I'm gonna have to find a way to make that make RP great again. MRGPA, or was it MRPGA? I'm gonna have to find a way to make that like an emoji. Make roleplay great again, because that's just fucking hilarious to me. Because it trolls both sides equally, and I like that. So, by the way, Straffe, you did a good job on this. I mean, not as good as
Yes.
I would have done, obviously. I appreciate you writing out the outline and everything like that. But, as somebody that is always usually a creator, I have to say, as a consumer, you did an okay job. It was mildly all right.
Appreciate your constructive criticism there, bud.
I mean, you did passable. I mean, it was cute. It was adorable the way you tried. But
Just stop while you're ahead. Just stop.
yeah, it was Special Olympics good. Just saying, it was good. I mean,
So, we got a nuke inside from orbit. Jazz, you got the button ready?
no, I actually this idea was actually his, and he wrote up the whole outline, which we're trying to get everybody to do now and again. And it was a good one. It's one we touched on just briefly, like here and there, and like nibbled at the edges of, but it was fun to actually get to like the meat and potatoes of it and the heart of it. So good job, man. Appreciate it.
You did.
And
a really good job.
And I didn't have to
Yes.
write any of it.
And I didn't lose a finger hiring Gormal to come do our thing. So
That's
win-win.
right. So I also wanted, real quick, I forgot to thank Morbid Existence for following us somewhere during the week. Appreciate you following us. And, of course, everybody at twitch.tv/RPM Radio. You can, of course, follow us. If you've got an Amazon Prime account, you get a free subscribe. So go ahead and subscribe if you aren't using it or you think we're worthy of it. If you are, we appreciate that. You can, of course, talk to us anytime during the week. Go to rpmradio.com/Discord. If you happen to be able to listen to us live, you can, of course, use that Discord channel as both Saba and Rahanar did tonight, which we appreciate both of you guys calling in. Thank you again very much for that. It was very fun and very good to get other people's takes other than just the four idiots that talk on this show. So with that, thank you again, everybody. Join us next week, rpmradio.com or twitch.tv/rpmradio 7 Central. And tune in next time when we'll discuss halflings and why anyone would create one or consume them. Next time on RPM Radio. Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Night.
The thoughts and opinions of RPM Radio and her crew are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great video game rock covers and original music. Bob Ross rules.